Chapter 324. After hearing Hyojin's question, Shino walked to a stone pillar in the hall with a stiff expression. He gently pressed on the stone pillar, and a secret compartment appeared on the stone pillar. In the secret compartment, there was a very delicate scroll with a black cover. Hyojin took out the scroll from the secret compartment, opened it, and found that it was indeed the Oni-Yero technique. Picking up the scroll of the Oni-Yero technique that had been thrown aside, Hyojin compared the Oni-Yero technique in the two scrolls and found that the Oni-Yero technique recorded in the fake scroll was generally correct. Only the most critical parts had been tampered with by Shino. Humph, sure enough. After a light snort, Hyojin put away the real Oni-Yero technique. Then, Hyojin asked Shino, "What is this place?" Shino replied dully, "This is Anchorbandy." Anchorbandy? On the side, Jishui and Itachi looked at each other, puzzled. Hyojin was also confused. He knew that there was a sky fortress in the Sky Ninja Village, but he didn't know what Anchorbandy was. So he asked Shino, "What is Anchorbandy?" Shino replied, "Anchorbandy is the sky fortress of our Sky Ninja Village." Sure enough, this is the sky fortress, Suijin muttered to himself and asked, "Can this sky fortress be used for normal flight?" Shino shook his head with a dull expression. "The fortress's power system hasn't been repaired yet. How do we repair it?" Shino said, "We need to go to the power room. Lead the way." Under Shino's lead, they soon arrived at the power room of the sky fortress. Looking around, Jishui said with emotion, "I didn't expect that the Sky Ninja Village would have such a sky fortress." Itachi touched the surrounding walls and asked, "Can this fortress really fly?" Hyojin squatted on the ground and carefully looked at the ceiling technique arranged in the center of the power room. He said, "If this fortress wants to fly, I'm afraid the power needed is not something that can be satisfied by one or two ninjas." Although the sealing method in the power room was old and damaged, Hyojin could still easily determine that the main function of these sealing methods was to gather chakra. From this, it could be seen that the amount of chakra needed to power this sky fortress must be an astronomical figure. Otherwise, it would be impossible to arrange so many sealing techniques to gather chakra in the power room. Jishui also looked over and examined the sealing techniques, asking, "Are these sealing techniques still effective?" Hyojin nodded. "Some parts are damaged, but most of them are still effective. With a little repair, they can continue to be used." Among the three of them, when it came to the attainments of illusion techniques, Hyojin was naturally far from Jishui and Itachi, the orthodox Uchiha's opponents. But when it came to sealing techniques, Jishui and Itachi could not compare to Hyojin. In Kuroto's view, there is a big problem with the layout of the sealing techniques in the power room, and due to the long history, many of the sealing techniques are old and inefficient. Rather than repairing them, it is better to overturn them all and redesign a new set of sealing technique. In this way, whether it is in terms of safety or efficiency, there will be a great improvement. Thinking of this, Hyojin planned a new sealing technique design while casually asking Shino, who was in the illusion, "What do you want to do by activating this sky fortress?" Shino replied stiffly, "Destroy my." Jishui and Itachi were shocked when they heard this. Both of them revealed a strong murderous intent at the same time. Unlike the other Uchiha, in the hearts of Jishui and Itachi, the village was higher than the family. If anyone dared to touch Mai, they would really risk their lives at all costs. Jishui said coldly, "You madman, you still want to destroy Mai? Do you think you can destroy my village with just a decaying fortress?" "Wishful thinking." Shino replied expressionlessly, "The weapon system of Anchorbadian is intact. On a clear day, the fortress only needs 4 shots of the energy cannon to completely cover the entire my village." Jishui was suddenly speechless. Itachi breathed a sigh of relief and said slowly, "Senior Yen, Brother Jishui, fortunately, we subdued him first. Otherwise, the village would be in trouble." Kuroto nodded with some lingering fear in his heart. This time it was a lucky hit. Hyojin originally went for the Oni-Yero technique. He never thought that Shino would launch the plan to destroy my village in advance. If he was completely unprepared, under the sudden attack of the Sky Fortress's energy cannon, even Hyojin might not be able to survive. After all, the physical quality of Hyojin's body did not exceed the scope of a normal ninja. Without entering the Tenseigan chakra mode and condensing the truth-seeking ball, his body's resistance was not much different from other ninjas. At most, he could use the body activation secret technique to forcibly recover his injuries at the cost of his lifespan. At this time, Hyojin asked Shino, "What are you going to use as the power of the Sky Fortress?" Shino replied, "Morio Chakra." Hyojin gently nodded. Shino's choice was also within his expectations. Before starting, Hyojin also thought about how to deal with Morio. Morio and the witch are two sides of the same coin. As long as the witch is still alive, Morio is immortal. Even if it is forcibly killed by the six-path level, Morio will be like the tailed beast, slowly resurrecting with the help of the witch. Therefore, the best way to deal with Morio is not to kill it but to seal it. Since it's a seal anyway, instead of wasting time and effort to choose a seal location for Morio, it's better to directly seal Morio in the power room of the Sky Fortress. In this way, not only can he ensure that Morio will not cause trouble in the shinobi world, but he can also use the almost endless chakra of Morio to power the Sky Fortress. It can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Just when Hyojin was lost in thought, Jishui came to his side and asked, "How to deal with this Shino? If we hand him over to the village, I'm afraid that he will leak the information of Amatsukami. There are 3 Homasubi in Amatsukami who can activate Susanoo, and once this news spreads out, Konoha will definitely suspect the Uchiha clan. What's more, the appearance of Jishui's Susanoo is recorded in the village." Hyojin pondered for a moment and said, "I'm going to use Morio's Jinchuriki as the power source and directly seal him in this power room." Chapter 325. I hope that everyone will make progress in their studies, work smoothly, and be healthy in the new year. Oh right, I also hope that everyone can sleep well and count money until their hands get cramps. The world of Naruto in the Eyes of Reincarnation wishes everyone a happy new year. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 326. Jishui stared at Hyojin and asked, "Do you want to occupy this fortress?" Hyojin nodded. Although the air fortress of the village is broken and most of the facilities inside are in a state of abandonment, the value of this air fortress is still immeasurable. Not to mention other things, just the energy cannon on the fortress is a very terrifying weapon of war. As far as Hyojin knows, there are not many shinobi villages in the shinobi world that have studied giant energy cannons, and there are even fewer of them that can be used in actual combat. In Kuroto's vague impression, the only thing that can be used in actual combat in the shinobi world seems to be the energy cannon on the Sky Fortress of the Sky Shinobi Village and the energy cannon of Cloud Village that tried to destroy the moon in the original timeline. Jishui has always had doubts about the identity of Uchiha-sama. In the battle just now, when Jishui saw the golden Susanoo, he knew that the Sharingan in Uchiha-sama's eye sockets is the pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan in Hyojin's hands. He doesn't understand why Hyojin trusts Uchiha-sama so much, even transplanting the pair of extremely precious eternal Manjikyu Sharingan to Uchiha-sama. Jishui asked vigilantly, "Does Kuroto-san know that you want to occupy this fortress?" Hyojin was startled for a moment, and immediately understood Jishui's worries, and said with a smile, "This is actually Kuroto-sama's idea." Jishui asked, "Kuroto-sama knew about this fortress in advance?" Hyojin nodded and said, "Well, this operation against the remnants of the village is all Kuroto-sama's plan. You should have heard what Shino said just now, right? The part about Shinichi? After a pause, Jishui asked curiously, "Is Shinichi also one of our people? Did he also join Amatsukami?" Itachi also came over and looked at Hyojin. The betrayal of Uchiha Shinichi is undoubtedly a huge loss for the Uchiha clan. Even to this day, the Uchiha clan has not given up the idea of finding Shinichi. Jishui blamed himself for this. He felt that he had an unshirkable responsibility for Shinichi's betrayal, so he tried so hard to find Shinichi. Hyojin shook his head and said, "Uchiha Shinichi did not join Amatsukami, but Kuroto-sama tried to contact him, and Shinichi did assist Kuroto-sama in the matter of Shino." Hyojin didn't tell them that Shinichi was an undercover agent of the Akatsuki organization. After all, Shinichi was really disappointed with the clan and the village, so he betrayed them, and at present Shinichi has no intention of returning, so Hyojin doesn't want to give Jishui and Itachi some unrealistic illusions. What's more, in the current situation, Shinichi's return may not be a good thing for the Uchiha clan. Currently, the Uchiha clan is under external pressure, so they can only wholeheartedly work together with the village, but once Shinichi returns, the Uchiha clan will have another Manjikyu Sharingan possessor, then their strength will greatly increase, and they may not be willing to continue working together with the village. Jishui hurriedly asked, "Can you arrange for me to meet with Shinichi?" Hyojin shook his head and said, "Shinichi is not free in the Akatsuki organization. His every move is closely monitored, and your identity is too sensitive. If you meet with Shinichi, once Shinichi is discovered by the Akatsuki organization, Shinichi will be finished." Itachi, who has been silent all this time, suddenly asked, "Is the Akatsuki organization really that powerful?" Hyojin pointed to Shino, who was trapped in the Genjutsu, and said, "This guy escaped from the Akatsuki organization. Since you are interested in the Akatsuki organization, you can interrogate him." Itachi immediately came to Shino and asked, "What are the members of the Akatsuki?" Shino, who is trapped in Jishui's Genjutsu, can't resist any questions, so as soon as Itachi's voice fell, he told everything he knows about the Akatsuki. For example, Sasori, Kakuzu, Uchiha, Shinichi, Bippajuzo, and Hirako were all introduced to him in detail. Only when he mentioned Konan and Pain did he start to be vague. Obviously, he didn't have much information on these two. After listening to Shino introducing the Akatsuki members one by one, Jishui's expression became serious. The official members of the Akatsuki organization are all elite ninjas, and many of them have the strength of a Kage class. Hirako, who possesses 5 Kekei Genkai, has even shown signs of breaking through to the Kage class. Jishui's mind was completely focused on the mysterious man who kidnapped Naruto and asked eagerly, "Are there only these people in the Akatsuki?" Shino nodded in a dull manner. Jishui questioned, "No, there must be something missing. I know that there is a member in the Akatsuki organization who wears a swirl-shaped one-eyed mask and can perform a strange and unpredictable space-time ninjutsu. Who is he?" The existence of obsidian makes Jishui very afraid because space-time ninjutsu is too domineering. In the past, the Yondaime Naruto relied on the flying thunder god jutsu to dominate the shinobi world. Shino frowned and thought for a while with a painful expression on his face, and then immediately became dull again. There is no such person in the organization. There is no doubt that the existence of obsidian is also a secret in the Akatsuki organization. In the Akatsuki organization, only Pain, Konan, Zetsu, and Shinichi, who was pulled into the organization by obsidian, are aware of the existence of obsidian. As for the other members of the Akatsuki organization, none of them know about the existence of obsidian. Unlike Jishui, Itachi's focus is on the leader of the Akatsuki organization. He asked, "What is the ability of the leader of the Akatsuki organization, Pain?" Shino hesitated for a moment and replied, "He claims to be a god and has the legendary Sage's Eye. He is a powerful ninja who is above the Kage." Shino's subconscious seems to be very afraid of pain. Even if he is controlled by Jishui's genjutsu, his expression still shows a little unnatural when he mentions pain. Itachi's eyes narrowed. This pain has the strength beyond the Kage? Jishui asked doubtfully. What is the sage's eye? Shino's mouth slowly spat out 3 words. Rinnegan. Itachi was shocked. This is impossible. It is recorded in the ancient books that the Rinnegan is the eyes of the legendary Sage of 6 Paths. The Sage of 6 Paths is a legendary figure from thousands of years ago. After him, there is no record of the Rinnegan in the shinobi world. How could Pain have that kind of eyes? Jishui put his hand on Shino's forehead. In order to ensure that Shino will tell the truth, he used a more powerful genjutsu on Shino and then asked, Have you seen that pair of eyes with your own eyes? Shino's expression became more and more dull as he nodded. I saw it with my own eyes. Chapter 327. Under the effects of the double genjutsu, Jishui believed that Shino wouldn't lie, so he asked Hyojin with a serious expression, Does Kuroto-san know all this information? Hyojin, who was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, nodded lightly. Hyojin knows the situation of the Akatsuki better than anyone. With the current combat power of the Akatsuki, as long as they work together, it would be a piece of cake for them to destroy the Mai village. In the original story, because of Pain's arrogance, the members of the Akatsuki were defeated one by one, and their combat power was greatly reduced. But even so, the Akatsuki successfully captured all the tailed beasts except for the 8 and 9 tails, and they are only one step away from filling the Gakido Golem and resurrecting the Jubi. Pain also single-handedly swept the entire Konoha village, almost single-handedly destroying Konoha, the greatest shinobi village in the shinobi world. If it weren't for Naruto's decision to resurrect a large number of Mai shinobi, including Kakashi, the Mai shinobi village wouldn't have existed in name anymore. Jishui asked again, Does Kuroto-san even know about the Rinnegan? Hyojin nodded. This is the reason why Kuroto-sama wants to occupy the Sky Fortress. The enemy we are facing is far stronger than we thought. Itachi thought for a while and asked Shino, What is the specific ability of the Rinnegan? Shino shook his head sluggishly. Pain rarely takes action, and it seems that only Kakuzu, Orochimaru, Biwajuzo, and a few other old members of the Akatsuki have seen Pain's strength, so although Shino is also very interested in the Rinnegan, he didn't collect much information about it. Seeing that Jishui and Itachi were almost done with their interrogation, Hyojin said to Itachi, Itachi, go out and check. Master Kage wants to take over this Sky Fortress without anyone knowing, so we can't leave anyone alive. The remnants of the village must be completely beheaded, because there are too many places in the Sky Fortress that need to be repaired, and it will be difficult to move them in a short time. Therefore, he can't let the remnants of the village spread the news that Amatsukami has attacked this place and seized the Sky Fortress. Itachi responded and immediately left the power room. Hyojin then said to Jishui, Before sealing Shino, I need to rearrange the sealing technique here. Take advantage of this gap. You control Shino first and find all the hidden materials in the village. Making the best use of everything, since he has already taken action, Hyojin will naturally not let go of the materials accumulated by the remnants of the village easily. After all, he is now very poor. Jishui didn't hesitate and controlled Shino, who was trapped in the illusion, to leave the power room. After sending away Jishui and Itachi, Hyojin walked around the power room a few times. The space in this power room is large enough to accommodate Shino, so after some weighing, Hyojin decided to let Shino completely transform into a tailed beast first, and then seal him. The reason for this choice is that after transforming into a tailed beast, it will be easier to extract chakra than in the sealed state. And the amount of chakras needed for the Sky Fortress is undoubtedly an astronomical figure. Therefore, only when Shino is completely transformed into a tailed beast can he supply the huge amount of chakra needed for the Sky Fortress. Of course, the complete transformation into a tailed beast also means instability, so Hyojin must design a strong seal array to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Let's use the 4 symbols seal. If he simply pursues stability, then the Miko-sama's Fuinjutsu is undoubtedly the best choice, but although the Miko-sama's Fuinjutsu has a strong isolation ability, it lacks the means to extract chakra. In contrast, the sealing technique of the Vortex clan, which was specially designed for tailed beasts, was more practical in this regard. The characteristic of the Uzumaki sealing technique is that it can not only isolate chakra, but also extract chakra from the sealed object and turn the chakra of the sealed object into its own, which is the first choice for the Jinchuriki. 4 symbols seal is a typical representative of the Uzumaki seal, and it is also the seal that Hyojin is best at. Rubbing his chin, Hyojin had a general plan. It is precisely because he is best at the 4 symbols seal that Hyojin is very clear that the 4 symbols seal is not as good as the Miko seal in terms of isolation ability. Therefore, Hyojin's plan is very simple. Since this power room has such a large space, why not take advantage of the large space advantage and arrange hundreds of sets of 4 symbols seal here to form a 4 symbols seal array, using quantity to strengthen quality and make up for the lack of isolation ability of a single 4 symbols seal. Hyojin is a full action man. Since he has an idea, he will not hesitate, so he immediately made a seal and shouted, "Shadow clone technique." Bang! After a burst of white smoke, Hyojin split into 4 shadow clones. Including himself, a total of 5 people in the power room got busy. The sealing techniques that Hyojin inscribed were not stacked brainlessly, but arranged in the form of an array. Therefore, he needs to activate several 4 symbols seal on an array at the same time to achieve a state of balance. This is also why he needs to use the shadow clone technique to create so many shadow clones. Moreover, this kind of thing is not something that ordinary people can do. Because in order to set up a seal array, not only does it need a good understanding of the seal that is set up, but before the entire seal array is activated, it also needs to spend a lot of chakra to maintain the balance of the entire seal array. Without the support of the dragon vein chakra, even Hyojin would not be able to put this bold plan into practice. After setting up 5 sets of 4 symbols seal at once, in a short while, Hyojin had set up a total of 500 sets of 4 symbols seal. The huge power room, the floor, and the walls were all densely covered with sealing techniques that glowed with chakra. Phew! Hyojin let out a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat on his forehead. Maintaining the activation of 500 sets of 4 symbols seal at one time, even with the support of the dragon vein chakra, was almost Hyojin's limit, so he had to stop. According to Hyojin's estimation, a total of 500 sets of 4 symbols seal should be able to ensure that Shino, who had completely transformed into a tailed beast, would be sealed. Once the final seal was completed, the chakra needed to maintain the 500 sets of 4 symbols seal would also be transferred from Hyojin to the sealed Shino. Not only did he have to maintain the chakra needed for the 500 sets of 4 symbols seal, but he also had to supply the chakra needed for the Sky Fortress. Even if Shino, who was the Morio's Jinchuriki, had more chakra in his body, under such a heavy burden, he was afraid that there would not be enough chakra for him to break the seal. Chapter 328. It didn't take long for Jishui to return to the power room with Shino. Shui was dumbfounded as he looked at the sealing tactics that covered almost the entire power room. You didn't just set up these sealing tactics, did you? Hyojin smiled and said, "How is it? Is it enough to seal Shino?" No wonder Kuroda-senpai gave you the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Looking at the girl named Uchiha-yin in front of him, Jishui suddenly had a new level of respect for her. In the field of sealing techniques, Jishui actually dabbled a little, so he recognized at a glance that the sealing techniques that covered the entire power room were not ordinary sealing techniques, but the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan's Four Symbols seal. The Four Symbols seal can be said to be the essence of the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique. Although Jishui doesn't know how to use it, he has also heard of the Four Symbols seal. It is very clear how difficult it is to arrange so many Four Symbols seal and ensure that each Four Symbols seal does not interfere with each other and achieve a balance. Hyojin said, "This pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is only temporarily lent to me by Kuroto-sama. What Kuroto-sama means is that if you ever need it, I can transplant it to you at any time. For others, the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan may be a treasure that they dream of, but for Hyojin, it is just a useful tool and an eye with research value. What's more, when he uses the Chimera technique to gather all the clones in the future, the eyes on the clone must be the original incomplete Byakugan, so in the final Kekki seizing ceremony, Hyojin will inevitably remove this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan from the fire clone. In other words, in the most important Kekki seizing ceremony of Hyojin, this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is not a necessity. In the face of the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, you can still abandon your greed, as expected of the one chosen by Kuroto-san." After sighing with emotion, Jishui continued, "I don't need this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. I have already told Kuroto-senpai about this, so you can rest assured, but I hope that you can make good use of this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and make it a treasure to protect the village." As soon as Jishui saw this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, he subconsciously thought of the deceased brothers Uchiha Ryota and Uchiha Hideki, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of resistance in his heart. Therefore, even if his eyesight has deteriorated, he has never thought about obtaining this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. For him, this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is stained with the blood of too many of his compatriots. Seeing that Jishui was a little depressed, Hyojin changed the topic and asked, "How is it? Did Shino explain the location of the secret storehouse of the village?" Jishui nodded. "There are a total of 3 secret storehouses. The materials in 2 of them have been moved to this sky fortress by the ninjas, only the last one hasn't been moved yet. This saves us a lot of trouble." With a smile, Hyojin continued, "Take me to see it." Under the guidance of Jishui, Hyojin soon came to the 3rd secret storehouse that the ninjas haven't had time to move. In this secret storehouse, all the flying ninjas developed by the village are stored, as well as the weapons and equipment that go with the flying ninjas. In Hyojin's impression, the ninjas in the original world used these flying ninjas and the supporting weapons and equipment to carry out a large-scale air attack on Mai, and Mai didn't even have the ability to fight back and could only watch the ninjas come and go freely. Picking up a set of flying ninjas, Hyojin weighed it. This set of flying ninjas are all made of metal, and when the wings are fully spread, it is 2 meters wide, so the weight is not light. Hyojin feels that it is at least 20 kilograms. Putting down the flying ninjas, Hyojin picked up a standard gun that goes with the flying ninjas. This gun can fire special kunai. If the kunai is wrapped with a delayed detonation, a ninja can be seen as a bomber. Hyojin turned to Shino and asked, "Can these flying ninjas be used?" Shino, who was trapped in the illusion, immediately replied, "There are 100 sets of flying ninjas here. A few of them need to be repaired. Most of them can be used normally. 100 sets." Hyojin's eyes flashed. 100 sets of flying ninjas are enough for Hyojin to build a large air force. Jishui was also a little curious about these flying ninjas, and asked Shino, "What is the operating principle of these flying ninjas?" Shino pointed to the end of the flying ninjas and explained, "There is an ejection device here. At a high place, the ejection device can give the flying ninjas initial power. Then, Shino pointed to the wings of the flying ninjas and said, after getting the initial power, the user needs to use their own chakra to activate the sealing technique engraved on the wings, and activate the wind release ninjutsu sealed on the sealing technique." Hyojin and Jishui are both experienced and knowledgeable, and after Shino's explanation, they quickly figured out the operating principle of this set of flying ninjas. In short, this set of flying ninjas is created by using the lightning release ninjutsu to create an ejection device, so that the flying ninjas get initial power, and then wait for the flying ninjas to float in the air, then activate the wind release ninjutsu sealed on the flying ninjas, so that the flying ninjas can maintain the state of gliding in the air to achieve the purpose of flying for a long time. In other words, this set of flying ninjas is more similar to a glider in principle, so its endurance is very strong. Even if it starts from the eastern sea of the Land of Fire, it can easily attack my village, which is located in the hinterland of the Land of Fire. But because its principle is more similar to a glider, it has a great lack of flexibility, so it can't fight with agile flying targets in the air. Hyojin pondered and said, "As long as I can use chakra, I can use these flying ninjas. In this case, I can use the Tenseigan chakra to activate a group of puppets and let them control these flying ninjas." Just when Hyojin was thinking about building a puppet air force, Itachi rushed here and said, "I was patrolling the periphery and found traces of fish escaping from the net." Hyojin frowned slightly and said, "It seems that the news can't be blocked. We must repair the power plant of the air fortress as soon as possible, and then immediately move. Hyojin and his team only have 3 people, and there are at least hundreds of people gathered here, so it is inevitable that there will be fish escaping from the net. Hyojin is not afraid of anything else, but he is afraid that the fish that escaped from the net will spread the news of Shino's attack to the Akatsuki organization, so he must move the air fortress as soon as possible." Chapter 329. Looking at the pile of flying ninjutsu in front of him, Jishui said with some embarrassment, "So many flying ninjutsu, it will take a lot of time just to transport them." As soon as Jishui's voice fell, Hyojin activated Susanoo. In an instant, a golden giant appeared in the warehouse. Seeing Hyojin activate Susanoo, Jishui and Itachi looked at each other. They naturally guessed that Hyojin wants to use Susanoo to transport these flying ninjutsu, but using Susanoo, which represents the strongest pupillary power of the Sharingan, as a coolie is a bit unacceptable for the two of them. Looking at Jishui and Itachi with a strange expression, Hyojin smiled and said, "I can do it alone, you don't need to intervene." The advantage of the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is revealed at this time. For Shursui and Itachi, every time they use the Manjikyu Sharingan, their eyesight will deteriorate, so whether it is Susanoo or other Manjikyu Sharingan jutsu, for them, every time they use it, they have one less chance to use it. Therefore, they will try to avoid using the Manjikyu Sharingan jutsu if it is not necessary. But Hyojin is different. The Manjikyu Sharingan jutsu can be restored, so he can use Susanoo as an ordinary ninjutsu. With the great power of Susanoo, Suijin quickly moved all the materials in the secret warehouse and transported them to the Sky Fortress. Then, Hyojin took Shino to the power room. Jishui asked Hyojin with a solemn expression, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Hyojin explained, "I arranged so many sealing techniques to seal him in the power room when he completely transforms into a tailed beast." Jishui said, "The amount of chakra in his body is too huge. If I use Genjutsu to stimulate him into a tailed beast completely, I can't say what will happen, so you must be careful." Hyojin nodded. Jishui no longer talked nonsense and directly used the Genjutsu to stimulate Shino. Under the stimulation of the Genjutsu, Shino's spirit did not resist and immediately released the Jinchuriki seal, and his body began to expand, entering the tailed beast state. As Shino entered the tailed beast state, the black chakra on his body immediately gushed out. Under the impact of the huge amount of chakra, his eyes became clear, and there were signs of him getting rid of Jishui's Genjutsu. Just as Jishui was about to strengthen the Genjutsu, Hyojin shook his head and stopped Jishui from strengthening the Genjutsu. At this moment, the sealing array in the power room had begun to take effect, so it didn't matter whether Shino was in the genjutsu or not. Without Jishui's genjutsu, Shino finally got rid of the influence of the genjutsu and completely regained consciousness. After regaining consciousness, Shino immediately found the 3 Homusubi of Amatsukami standing quietly in front of him, and said angrily, "You! What the hell are you doing?" Hyojin did not answer, just silently activated the 4 symbols seal. At this time, Shino also noticed that the 4 symbols seal on his body was increasing, and suddenly turned pale with fright and shouted, "No! You can't do this, my village, Hyuga Mansion." In the cold and quiet night, the 2 brothers, Hayashi and Richa, sat in the courtyard, chatting for a long time. After chatting for a while, Richa finally turned the topic to Hyojin's previous suggestion, and said, "Brother, our Hyuga clan must change." Hayashi raised his teacup and took a sip. "What do you want to say?" Richa relayed what Hyojin had said to him before to his brother Hayashi, and then said, "I think Kuroto's words are very reasonable. Although Soft Fist is the foundation of our Hyuga clan, Soft Fist also has limitations." Without waiting for Hizashi-sama to finish his words, Hizashi-sama interrupted him. "What nonsense are you talking about? Do you know what the consequences will be if the elders hear you?" Richa quickly said, "Brother, this is just a chat between us brothers, not a discussion at the clan meeting." Hayashi sighed faintly. "I know that your branch family has a lot of dissatisfaction, but whether it is Soft Fist or the cage. In short, these are the traditions of our Hyuga clan. They are the guarantee of our Hyuga clan's inheritance for thousands of years. As the head of the clan, I can't question the tradition, let alone destroy the tradition." Hizashi-sama also lowered his head and sighed softly. Suddenly, there was a rapid ringing of the bell in the mansion. Hayashi's eyes were cold, and he stood up. "Not good, this is the alarm of the forbidden area." Richa also got up and said in surprise, "Did someone break into the forbidden area?" Hayashi's face was sullen, and he rushed towards the forbidden area without saying a word. Richa also followed. The forbidden area was broken into, and this kind of thing had never happened in the Hyuga clan in nearly 100 years. When Hayashi and Richa arrived at the forbidden area, several family patrols had already arrived here. Everyone found that the gate of the forbidden area was open, and there was an old man with a haggard face sitting in the outer hall of the forbidden area. The old man had no breath at this moment, and his eyes were empty, and the white eyes were gone. "Elder!" Hayashi exclaimed, and immediately rushed into the outer hall of the forbidden area. This elder who died in the outer hall of the forbidden area was a very senior elder in the Hyuga clan. Although because of his age, his physical strength declined, and his strength was not as strong as before, he was not an ordinary jonin who could match him. What's more, this is the mansion of the Hyuga clan. Inside and outside are all Hyuga clansmen. It is almost impossible to kill an elder of the Hyuga clan without being noticed. It must be known that there is no blind spot in the Hyuga clan without the cage bird curse seal. In other words, the elder of the Hyuga clan stationed in the outer hall of the forbidden area should not have been attacked. Looking at the black eyes of the elder of the Hyuga clan, Richa also realized the seriousness of the problem. The Byakuga is the most precious organ of the Hyuga clan. Because of the existence of the cage bird curse seal, the possibility of the Byakuga being lost is minimized. In several shinobi wars, the Hyuga clan has only lost one Byakuga. Therefore, now that a pair of Byakuga has been taken away, it is already a big event for the Hyuga clan. Block the clan land. No one is allowed to enter or leave. After issuing the blockade order in exasperation, Hayashi walked towards the forbidden area with a gloomy face. The forbidden area not only contains various family history and secrets of the Hyuga clan for thousands of years, but also the rare treasures collected by the Hyuga clan, but also the casting scroll of the cage bird curse seal. Once the casting scroll of the Sky Bird Curse seal is stolen, the separation system of the Hyuga clan that has been maintained for hundreds of years will be overturned in an instant, and the life and death of all the branch members who have been engraved with the Cage Bird Curse seal will be controlled by others. Chapter 330. After entering the forbidden secret room, Hayashi's face relaxed, and he breathed a long sigh of relief. The secret room where the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll is stored was not opened by the intruder, which is a blessing in misfortune for Hayashi. Byakugan, open! After activating Byakugan, Hayashi carefully looked at the secret room. The secret room of the Hyuga clan is not large, almost the size of an ordinary hall, because there are not many items that are qualified to be stored here. The Cage Bird Curse spell scroll is stored in a treasure box in the deepest part of the secret room. There is a very exquisite sealing technique placed on the treasure box. In the entire Hyuga clan, only the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, Hayashi, and a few elders of the Hyuga clan can remove this sealing technique. Carefully observing the treasure box where the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll is stored, Hayashi's expression became solemn. Because he found that the seal on the treasure box has been triggered by someone. The alarm he heard before should be the alarm triggered by the seal after the intruder triggered the seal on the treasure box. Moving his gaze away from the treasure box, Hayashi observed other areas of the secret room. Soon, he found that the bookshelves in the secret room containing the millennium history and secrets of the Hyuga clan seemed to have been turned over. He walked over quickly and counted the books on the bookshelves, and immediately his face became solemn. After a simple count, he found that at least 3 ancient books on the bookshelves were missing, and these 3 ancient books all recorded the secrets of Byakugan and Cage Bird Curse. Hayashi secretly thought, the purpose of the intruder is very clear. From the theft of several ancient books that recorded the secrets of Cage Bird Curse, to the fact that the seal on the treasure box containing the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll was triggered, it can be seen that the purpose of the intruder is very clear, that is, the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll. After checking the secret room for the last time and confirming that no other items were lost, Hayashi walked out of the secret room with a gloomy face. At this time, the outer hall of the secret room was full of Hyuga clansmen. Several elders of the Hyuga clan also rushed over after hearing the news. Even the elder of the Hyuga clan who lost a Byakugan in the Third Shinobi War was among them. Everyone was checking the body of the murdered elder, and seeing Hayashi coming out of the secret room, they asked, "Is the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll okay?" Hayashi nodded. After getting an affirmative answer from Hayashi, the members of the Hyuga clan breathed a long sigh of relief. Although they all knew that the treasure box that contained the Caged Bird Curse scroll was set up with a very intricate sealing technique, under the situation where they couldn't break the sealing technique, the possibility of an intruder stealing the Caged Bird Curse scroll was very small. But thinking that the Caged Bird Curse spell scroll may be stolen, the members of the Hyuga clan couldn't help but shudder. Seeing that the members of the Hyuga clan are so worried about the Cage Bird Curse that can control the life and death of the branch family, Richa, who is a branch family member, had a complicated expression on his face. He is disgusted with the control of the Hyuga clan over the Cage Bird Curse, but he is also worried that the Cage Bird Curse will fall into the hands of others. At this time, Hayashi came to the murdered elder and asked, "How did the elder die?" An elder of the Hyuga clan stepped forward and peeled off the collar of the murdered elder, revealing 2 black teeth marks on his neck and said, "Judging from the teeth marks, it should be a poisonous snake." Hayashi subconsciously said, "How is this possible?" Not to mention other people, even ordinary Hyuga clansmen can't easily get close to the secret treasury of the Hyuga clan, not to mention other people, even ordinary Hyuga clansmen can't easily get close to the secret treasury, plus the elder who is stationed in the secret treasury is an experienced ninja, so it's really inconceivable for Hyuga to die from a sneak attack. Another member of the Hyuga clan glanced at Richa and ordered, "The people of the branch family, temporarily withdraw from the secret treasury." Richa said angrily. What do you mean? Do you suspect that we are the Branch family? In the face of Richa's questioning, the members of the Hyuga clan were silent, but the suspicion and fear on their faces were not concealed in the slightest. There is no doubt that although the intruder failed to steal the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll, it has planted the seed of suspicion between the Hyuga clan and the Branch family. Considering that the intruder did come for the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll, Hayashi said coldly, Richa, you retreat first. Richa had no choice but to lead the patrol team of the Branch family to leave the secret treasury. After all the members of the Branch family left, a member of the Hyuga clan asked Hayashi, what was stolen from the secret treasury? Hayashi did not conceal anything and told everyone about the stolen ancient books that recorded the Cage Bird Curse. The one-eyed member of the Hyuga clan said with an embarrassed expression, Humph, sure enough, they came for the Cage Bird Curse spell scroll. Another member of the Hyuga clan said, I have checked the visitor list, there are no outsiders in the mansion today, so the intruder can only be a member of our Branch family. Hayashi shook his head and said, It is too arbitrary to determine that the murderer is a member of the Branch family now. Hayashi is not blindly shielding the Branch family, but the elder of the Hyuga clan who is in charge of the secret treasury also knows the Cage Bird Curse, so it is difficult for the members of the Branch family to sneak attack an elder of the Hyuga clan who has mastered the Cage Bird Curse. After all, as long as the elder of the Hyuga clan activates the Cage Bird Curse, he can instantly subdue any member of the Branch family. One of the members of the Hyuga clan, who first discovered the cause of the death of the elder of the Hyuga clan, said, To be able to kill the elder of the Hyuga clan with poison in an instant, the venom of this poisonous snake is by no means ordinary. Don't you think of anyone? Hayashi's face changed. You mean Orochimaru? The member of the Hyuga clan nodded and said, Yes, before Orochimaru defected, he attacked you and injured you. I think everyone still remembers that incident. The member of the Hyuga clan was naturally referring to the last time before Orochimaru defected a few years ago to collect materials for Hyojin's Tenseigan experiment. In that incident, Orochimaru personally attacked Hayashi and obtained a part of Hayashi's flesh and blood, allowing Hyojin to collect all the special gene sequences. At that time, because Orochimaru was in a high position and had a sensitive identity, the Hyuga clan did not publicize this matter, but everyone in the Hyuga clan knew about it. Hayashi said, You suspect that there are members of the Branch family who colluded with Orochimaru and tried to obtain the Cage Bird Curse? All the members of the Hyuga clan nodded, showing their suspicion of the Branch family. After pondering for a long time, Hayashi said, Richa was by my side when the incident happened, so he can be trusted. I will ask him to cooperate with us and carry out an investigation on the Branch family. At this time, a member of the Hyuga clan said seriously, I heard that many people in the Branch family have been questioning our family's tradition recently, and some people even publicly questioned Soft Fist. Chapter 331. Country of Hot Water, Sky Fortress. As more and more four-symbol seal was activated, Shino's roar became softer and softer, and gradually disappeared in the noise of the power room. Hyojin looked at Shino indifferently, without the slightest bit of pity in his heart. This guy has been deceiving and betraying all his life, and it's completely his own fault that he ended up in this situation. If he hadn't betrayed the Akatsuki, Kuroda wouldn't have acted against him so quickly. Rumble, the noise in the power room was getting louder and louder, and even the floor began to tremble slightly. Sure Sui and Itachi glanced at each other, both revealing a surprised expression. Hyojin had already interrogated Shino about how to activate the Sky Fortress, so he turned to Jishui and Itachi and said, Let's go to the central hall. Jishui asked curiously, Do we activate the Sky Fortress now? Hyojin walked towards the central hall and answered, Yes, we must immediately move this Sky Fortress, and if we want to move it, we can only activate it and let it fly by itself. Soon, the three of them arrived at the central hall. On the metal plate on the floor of the central hall, Hyojin bit his finger and drew an activation spell. In an instant, a dazzling light was transmitted from the metal plate, along the lines of the metal plate, to every corner of the Sky Fortress. Rumble, the rumbling sound rang in their ears, and the whole hall, or rather the whole Sky Fortress, began to tremble violently. Hyojin, who staggered a few steps in the trembling, had a happy expression on his face, because he could clearly feel that the Sky Fortress was slowly rising at this moment. Shui and Itachi rushed out of the hall and arrived at the entrance of the Sky Fortress. Looking at the Sky Fortress rising from the ground and slowly rising into the air, Shui, who had seen many things, and Itachi, who had always been quiet and introverted since young, could not help but look surprised. Not long after, the Sky Fortress flew into the clouds. Standing outside the Sky Fortress, listening to the sound of the wind whistling past his ears, Kuroda thought to himself, as long as the Sky Fortress is kept flying at a high altitude, it should be able to prevent most spying and sneaking in. In the shinobi world, there aren't many ninjas who can fly, and those who can fly at high altitudes are even fewer. Therefore, as long as the Sky Fortress remained in the sky, it could basically prevent 90% of external invasions. In terms of safety alone, it was definitely better than the secret laboratory under the Forest of Death that Hyojin had set up. Therefore, Hyojin had decided to move the entire secret laboratory to the Sky Fortress. At dawn, the Sky Fortress flew to the sky above a mountain not far from my village. This mountain is extremely steep and inaccessible, and the top of the mountain is surrounded by clouds and mist all year round. The Sky Fortress hovering here is almost submerged in the thick clouds. Ordinary people can't find it at all. After leaving the Sky Fortress with Shui and Itachi, Hyojin immediately came to his secret laboratory, changed back to his own body, and then packed the entire secret laboratory with a storage scroll. Taking a large number of storage scrolls with various instruments sealed, Hyojin and the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets left the secret laboratory together. Going back and forth from the Sky Fortress hovering a few kilometers in the air may be extremely difficult for others, but for Hyojin it is very easy. His own body can enter the Tenseigan chakra mode, flying freely, coming and going freely. Although his water clone can't fly freely at high altitudes, if he uses the ice release ninjutsu, magic mirror ice crystal, to climb up vertically, it is not difficult. The only thing that can't go back and forth alone is the fire clone. Because the current development of the fire clone is still in the most basic stage, with the strength of the fire clone, it can't support him to open the complete form of Susanoo, so the fire clone can only fly at low altitude with the help of the ninja crow, using the crow substitution technique, and can't fly to the Sky Fortress hovering a few kilometers in the air. Of course, this also means that Shui and Itachi can't enter the Sky Fortress hovering a few kilometers in the air alone, ensuring that Hyojin's secret experiment will not be leaked. After moving the entire secret laboratory to the Sky Fortress, Hyojin left a shadow clone in the Sky Fortress, and also left the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets here. The 3 generations of Kazekage puppets, who have mastered the Kekii limit release, can also fly freely in the air, so it is suitable to be the guard of the Sky Fortress. After dealing with all this, Hyojin didn't stay on the Sky Fortress, but immediately returned to the village. The village has just been attacked by the Akatsuki organization, so the supervision in all aspects is very strict. As an Umbu subordinate to Naruto, Hyojin can't leave the village for a long time. As soon as Hyojin sneaked back home, Yu came to him in a hurry. Looking at the anxious and panting Yu, Hyojin smiled gently. "What's wrong?" Yu took a sip of tea, and then told Hyojin about the secret vault of the Zong family's mansion being broken into, a Zong family elder being killed, and Byakugan being taken away. When Hyojin heard this, he put away his smile and asked, "Did you find the murderer?" Yu shook her head. It is because there is no clue of the murderer, so Richa-sama is very anxious, so he asked me to inform you to be careful during this time. Me be careful? Startled, Hyojin was puzzled. What do I have to be careful about? The Zone family won't suspect me of doing it, right? You quickly said. Richa-sama said that the Zone family suspects that the murderer is a member of the Branch family, and recently you have questioned the family tradition, as well as the soft fist, so the Zone family will definitely suspect you. Hyojin stroked his chin and nodded. Richa-sama's worry is obviously not superfluous. According to the stubborn idea of the Zone family, all the Branch family members who question the family tradition will be suspected by them as the murderer. You carefully looked at Hyojin and said in a low voice, "Moreover, it is said that this attack is related to Orochimaru, and you used to be Orochimaru's subordinate, so Richa-sama is worried that the Zone family will use this as a pretext, so he wants you to be prepared." Kuroto smiled and comforted. "Don't worry, let alone those stubborn old fogies of the clan, even if it's the Sandaime, they won't be able to do anything to me. I'm no longer a Chunin who needs to rely on others to breathe." Yu was startled, and quickly activated the Byakugan, looked around, and after confirming that no one was watching outside, she said in a low voice, "What nonsense are you talking about? If Naruto-sama hears this, you will be in trouble. Moreover, we all have the caged bird curse. If you do anything out of line, the Zone family will not let you go." Chapter 332. The Caged Bird Curse. The corner of Hyojin's mouth raised, revealing a slightly disdainful expression. For ordinary Branch family members, the Caged Bird Curse seal is the fate that Ningxi always talks about in the original time and space. They can't resist it and can only accept it helplessly. But for Hyojin, the Caged Bird Curse seal is nothing. Because as long as the Tenseigan is opened, Hyojin can use his powerful Tenseigan to suppress the Caged Bird Curse seal that clamps his brain nerves, causing the Caged Bird Curse seal to enter a state of ineffectiveness. This is also the only way that Hyojin has found to remove the Caged Bird Curse seal other than death. However, Bell's words reminded Hyojin that although he is not afraid of the control of the Caged Bird Curse seal, Bell can't resist the Caged Bird Curse seal. If the Zone family uses Bell as a threat, he really can't think of an effective countermeasure in a short time other than completely slaughtering the Zone family. Bell said to herself, "But Richa-sama also said that you are the Umbu under Naruto. Even if the Zone family has doubts about you, they will worry about Naruto-sama, so as long as you pay attention, you should be able to get through this." Hyojin shook his head and sighed softly. He has long experienced the Zone family's style of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Previously, Orochimaru attacked the Patriarch Hiashi for Hyojin's experiment. Because of Orochimaru's sensitive identity, the Zone family sacrificed the prestige of the Patriarch Hiashi and chose to keep the peace. Later, in the Watanabe incident, if not for Suijin's intervention, with the nature of the Zut family, they would have chosen to sacrifice the Patriarch, Hiashi, just like in the original timeline. At that time, the two brothers, Hiashi and Hisashi, would have fallen into a painful choice where one of them would have to die. In addition, the Zone family knew that the lost Byakugan had fallen into the hands of the Mist Village, but they were wary of the diplomatic relations between the two villages, so they didn't dare to send their experts to infiltrate the Mist Village and take back the lost Byakugan. All of these indicated the Zone clan's nature of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. As long as the external pressure was strong enough, the Zone clan wouldn't have a bottom line. Even the clan leader of the Zone clan could be abandoned. Therefore, Richa's speculation was not unreasonable. As long as Hyojin did not do anything out of line during this period of time, his identity as an assassin would be his protective talisman. Seeing that Hyojin seems to be distracted, Ling pursed her lips and said, "Hyojin, did you hear what I said just now?" Hyojin smiled and said, "Alright, don't worry about it. Didn't Richa-sama already say that I'm a direct subordinate to Naruto? The Zone clan also has to take Naruto-sama into consideration. Ling nodded. She recognized Hyojin's ability very much. Over the years, no matter how troublesome the situation was, Hyojin was always able to solve it easily, and his strength and status were also increasing year by year. Although the clansmen didn't say much, but Ling is very clear that the vast majority of the clansmen have already regarded Hyojin as the representative of the new generation of the Hyuga clan, the face of the Hyuga clan. What's more, Hyojin also defeated Uchiha Shinichi in a sparring match. Although at that time, Shinichi Uchiha had not awakened his Manjikyu Sharingan, but this record is real, so this has become one of the few things that the Hyuga clansmen can brag to the Uchiha clansmen. After sending away Ling, who was still a little worried, Hyojin thought about the whole thing. The first target of Kuroto's suspicion is naturally the spy lurking in the Hyuga clan and the one who passed the message to Kumo. The other party seems to have mastered a secret technique similar to spiritualization, so in theory, the other party has the ability to successfully sneak attack the elder of the Hyuga clan and break into the secret vault of the Hyuga clan. Snake venom. Frowning, Hyojin secretly thought, why would they use snake venom to attack the elder of the Hyuga clan? Is it possible that Orochimaru is also involved? Or, the other party just wants to use this method to frame Orochimaru and confuse the direction of the Hyuga clan's investigation? If Orochimaru, who has already defected, is the Hyuga clan really can't do anything to Orochimaru, so Hyojin doesn't rule out the possibility of the other party framing Orochimaru. But what concerns Hyojin the most is the other party's purpose. Why did he suddenly do this kind of thing? Is he really sure that he can steal the caged bird curse seal scroll? In the original world, this spy cooperated with the Cloud Village to frame the Hyuga clan and forced Richa to his death. After that, he didn't do anything else. But in this world, he has the behavior of stealing the caged bird curse seal scroll. Perhaps forcing Richa to his death in the original world made him realize that the Hyuga clan can even abandon the patriarch, and not just against the branch family members, so he dissipated his resentment and gave up taking revenge on the Hyuga clan. And in this world, because of my intervention, Cloud Village's plot failed, so he is still thinking of taking revenge on the Hyuga clan. Soon, Hyojin had a reasonable speculation. Looks like I have to find a way to find this guy. Thinking of this, Hyojin's eyes gradually turned cold. Hyojin has his own plan on how to transform the Hyuga clan, so he doesn't want someone to appear halfway and disrupt his plan, and intensify the conflict between the Hyuga clan and the branch family. The Hyuga clan. In a dark room, a figure took out an ancient book with yellowed pages and began to study it carefully. Looking at it, the figure stopped flipping the book and seemed to be lost in thought. What is recorded in this ancient book is the origin of the Hyuga clan's Hyuga clan and the branch family system. This system did not exist in the Hyuga clan from the beginning, but after the clan experienced a catastrophe, a talented patriarch and several experts in the clan exhausted their efforts to develop a curse seal that can protect the Byakugan from being picked at will, and then evolved the system of the Hyuga clan and the branch family. In other words, the system of the Hyuga clan and the branch family is based on this curse seal. According to the description of the ancient book, the original intention of the ancestors of the Hyuga clan to develop this curse seal was not to control and enslave the clansmen, but to avoid a catastrophe. As for what kind of catastrophe caused the ancestors of the Hyuga clan to exhaust their efforts to develop this curse seal that can protect the Byakugan from being picked at will, there is no detailed record in the ancient book, and the location mentioned is all vague or vague. It can be seen that the ancestor of the Hyuga clan who wrote this ancient book is very afraid of this catastrophe. But as time passed, the Hyuga clan who mastered the curse seal made several improvements to this curse seal, enhancing the control ability of the curse seal, so that it gradually evolved into the caged bird curse seal of today, becoming the cage of all the branch family members. After reading the entire ancient book, a question emerged in the figure's mind. That is, what is the catastrophe that prompted the ancestors of the clan to develop the curse seal? Why is the clan so afraid of this kind of catastrophe, not even willing to mention it? Chapter 333. There is no doubt that the hidden secrets of the Hyuga clan, which has been passed down for thousands of years, are no less than that of the Uchiha clan. After flipping through several ancient books in succession, the figure had a clearer understanding of the history of the Hyuga clan and the development of the cage bird curse seal. According to the description of several ancient books, the catastrophe that almost destroyed the Hyuga clan was undoubtedly related to the Byakugan. In order to avoid this catastrophe, the ancestors of the clan tried their best to develop the curse seal to protect the Byakugan from being removed at will. It can be seen that this catastrophe is related to the removal of the Byakugan. But the Hyuga clan is a powerful clan with pupil technique bloodline inheritance. Even in the chaotic warring states period, the strength of the Hyuga clan was only second to the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. It stands to reason that in the warring states period, there were only a handful of clans that had the ability to hunt down the Hyuga clan and seize the Byakugan, and most of them had their own Kekkei limit, so they would not covet the Byakugan Kekkei too much. For example, the Senju clan and the arrogant Uchiha clan are unlikely to hunt down the Hyuga clan because of the Byakugan. Therefore, it is difficult for the figure to imagine what kind of catastrophe it was that required the ancestors of the clan to spend so much effort to develop a curse seal to protect the Byakugan. After closing the last ancient book, the silhouette sighed faintly. As more and more Uchiha clansmen with Manjikyu Sharingan emerged, a doubt lingered in the hearts of all the Hyuga clansmen, that is, whether the Byakugan has the possibility of evolution and awakening. The figure also had this idea and took the risk to break into the forbidden secret vault of the clan. However, the answer he got was depressing. According to the ancient books, in the thousands of years of history of the Hyuga clan, there has never been a precedent of evolution or awakening of the Byakugan. It seems that there is no possibility of evolution or awakening of the Byakugan Kekkei at all. Why can the Uchiha clan's Sharingan awaken the Manjikyu Sharingan, but our Hyuga clan's Byakugan cannot awaken and evolve? Is the bloodline of our Hyuga clan really inferior to that of the Uchiha clan? Some of the disheartened figures lit candles and placed a few ancient books on the flame. However, just as the figure was about to destroy these ancient books, he suddenly discovered that some patterns had appeared on the ancient books that had been burned by the flames. He pieced together the patterns revealed in the ancient books and found that these scattered patterns seemed to be able to be pieced together into a map. However, a large part of the pattern was missing. It seemed that he would need other ancient books in the secret vault of the forbidden area to completely piece together the entire map. Why is there a map hidden in these ancient books? Hyojin's home. Hyojin temporarily put aside the matter of finding the spy hidden in the family. Because the spy had just broken into the family's forbidden vault, they would definitely be very careful during this period of time. Moreover, Hyojin had yet to think of a bait to lure the other party out, so he could only put this matter aside for now. Anyway, no matter what the other party does, it won't have much impact on Hyojin in a short period of time. In contrast, studying the newly acquired Chimera technique is Hyojin's top priority. What is the priority and what is the second priority? Hyojin's heart is still very clear. If the prophecy of the Great Toad Sage will come true, then it indicates that Otsutsuki Kagaya's escape is inevitable. Therefore, before Otsutsuki Kagaya gets out of trouble, Hyojin's top priority is to break through the Kekkei Genkai net and become a strong person who can control the outcome of the battle. For this matter, the family can be put aside. Because as long as Hyojin achieves Kekkei Genkai net, then even if the Hyuga clan is destroyed, he can easily rebuild the Hyuga family. After spreading out the scroll of Chimera technique, Hyojin studied it seriously. The core of Chimera technique is to plant a special material called Ghost Sprout. This material called Ghost Sprout is the core of the Chimera technique that can devour everything. But planting Ghost Sprout is not easy. Because to cultivate Ghost Sprout that is compatible with one's own flesh and blood requires a lot of manpower and material resources. In terms of success rate, cultivating Ghost Sprout is even more difficult than Hyojin's cell fusion experiment. What makes Hyojin frown is that Ghost Sprout has a negative effect. This also made Hyojin realize a very serious problem. If he can't achieve Kekkei Genkai net and become a real six-path level, then he can't get rid of the Ghost Sprout in his body. In other words, once the forbidden technique Chimera technique is used, other than achieving Kekkei Genkai net, all other results will be a failure. Hiroko's Kekkei Genkai fusion ritual failed from the root, Hyojin secretly sighed. Although Hiroko survived the Kekkei Genkai fusion ritual, in the end, he only fused 5 types of Kekkei Genkai net. He didn't achieve a qualitative change and become a real six-path level. Therefore, he can't leave the Ghost Sprout in his body. Because once he gets rid of the Ghost Sprout in his body won't be able to withstand the 5 types of Kekkei Genkai net and will immediately collapse. But if he keeps the Ghost Sprout, he will suffer from the endless backlash of the Ghost Sprout. This will not only cause hidden dangers to the body, but it will also cause a serious period of weakness. If the enemy grasps the timing of the backlash of the Ghost Sprout, then they can easily take advantage of this flaw. As for Shino, who also used the Chimera technique, Hyojin couldn't help but sigh at his good luck. After he used the Chimera technique to devour the Morio demon, the Ghost Sprout in his body was instead devoured by the Morio demon. This allowed him to use the Chimera technique to smoothly become the Morio demon's Jinchuriki. At the same time, the Morio demon inadvertently helped him get rid of the Ghost Sprout and eliminate the hidden dangers of using the Chimera technique. But Hyojin didn't need to use the Chimera technique to achieve the Jinchuriki, so he couldn't copy Shino's method. Like Hiroko, he also had to face the hidden dangers of the Ghost Sprout. If he failed to break through the Kekkei Genkai net in the end, the Ghost Sprout in his body would become the talisman of his life. To avoid this, the only way was to succeed in breaking through the Kekkei Genkai net in one go and become a real six-path level. His body would change qualitatively, and he wouldn't need the Ghost Sprout to maintain the body of the main body after devouring 6 clones. I have to succeed in one go. There's no second chance. After a bitter smile, Hyojin sighed. It seems that there's no turning back for breaking through the Kekkei Genkai net. Either I succeed or I die. Chapter 334. The cultivation and implantation of Ghost Sprout is far more troublesome than Hyojin imagined. Moreover, Hyojin doesn't dare to use his own body for experiments like Hiroko did. After all, his in-release body is the core of everything. If his in-release body suffers irreparable damage before completing the Kekkei Genkai net, then his attempt to break through the Kekkei Genkai net will be over. Fortunately, I managed to control Shino in time. After closing the scroll of Chimera technique, Hyojin secretly rejoiced. When Shino defected from the Akatsuki organization, he took away a large number of Hiroko's experimental materials and equipment. After Hyojin successfully attacked Shino, he not only received the air fortress and a large number of belongings and equipment, but also a large number of materials and equipment related to Chimera technique that Shino took from Hiroko, as well as some of Shino's experimental records when cultivating Ghost Sprout. With these, the difficulty of cultivating Ghost Sprout has been greatly reduced for Hyojin. After all, he himself has an unusually rich human experimental experience, and now he has materials, equipment, and even experimental records. If he still can't cultivate Ghost Sprout, then he might as well die. The cultivation of Ghost Sprout can't be completed in a short time, so although Hyojin hasn't gathered all 6 clones yet, the cultivation of Ghost Sprout must be put on the agenda. After making up his mind, Hyojin first went to the Umbu base and confirmed that there is no special mission today. He left a shadow clone in the village, and then quietly sneaked out of the village, entered the Tenseigan chakra mode, and flew to the air fortress suspended thousands of meters above the ground. Walking in the corridor of the air fortress, Hyojin couldn't help but frown. After the initial surprise and emotion, he gradually discovered that many areas in this air fortress have different degrees of decay and damage. For example, the corridor leading to the central hall, the stone walls on both sides are damaged in many places, and there are even collapsed areas in several forks. Apart from the obvious decay and damage to the internal structure, as the core part of the Sky Fortress, the power transmission system also had a more serious problem. In particular, the output of the two magnetic drives at the end of the fortress was actually different. The output of the one on the left was obviously much stronger than the one on the right. This directly caused the flight of the Sky Fortress to be unstable, and there would be severe turbulence. Moreover, the Sky Fortress would deviate by 5 degrees every 10 kilometers, requiring the pilot to adjust the flight direction of the Sky Fortress frequently to ensure that it would not deviate from its intended course. "Looks like the maintenance of the fortress will have to be put on the agenda," Hyojin muttered to himself as he walked. Now that this Sky Fortress has become his secret base, he can't afford any accidents, so proper maintenance is essential. He didn't expect this Sky Fortress to become a superweapon in a short time. He only hoped that this Sky Fortress wouldn't suddenly fall due to years of disrepair, causing his secret laboratory to be affected. Arriving at the cabin where the secret laboratory was located, Hyojin counted the materials and instruments that Shino had taken away from Hirako one by one according to the list that Shino had made himself. He then categorized these materials and instruments and rearranged them according to his own habit. After rearranging them, Hyojin immediately began the experiment of cultivating the ghost sprout. Because there were a large number of ready-made sprout, Hyojin only needed to extract his own cell tissue and then plant the sprout into his own cell tissue. The sprout that could survive would be the ghost sprout that could fit his body. According to Hirako and Shino's experimental records, directly planting the sprout into the body would have the highest probability of cultivating a ghost sprout that was compatible with the body. But like Hyojin's method of extracting cell tissue and then planting the sprout into the cell tissue, the probability of successfully cultivating a ghost sprout that was compatible with the body was very low. But even so, Hyojin still decided to use cell tissue to cultivate the ghost sprout. After all, directly planting the sprout into his own body was too risky. No one could tell what kind of mutation the sprout would bring to the body. And in order to increase the probability of successfully cultivating the ghost sprout, Hyojin placed his cell tissue into 100 petri dishes and planted the ghost sprout in all 100 petri dishes at the same time. He believed that as long as his luck wasn't too bad, in these 100 petri dishes, he should be able to cultivate 1 or 2 ghost sprout that were compatible with his body. As for the more troublesome implantation process, he doesn't need to worry about it at the moment. At the very least, he has to wait until he has cultivated all 6 clones before he can consider it. In the following week, Hyojin spent his time monitoring the cultivation of the ghost sprout and inspecting the damage of the Sky Fortress. The cultivation of the ghost sprout takes a long time of 3 to 4 months, so in just a short week, he can't see any results. But after a week of careful inspection, Hyojin found that the situation of the Sky Fortress is more serious than he imagined. He has to land in an open space and carry out large-scale maintenance to ensure that the Sky Fortress doesn't have any accidents. Therefore, he disguised himself with different identities, shuttled back and forth between the major countries of the shinobi world, purchased a large number of building materials from various places, and then landed the Sky Fortress in a remote and flat desert in the territory of the Land of Wind. The maintenance of such a large building involved a lot of field. Just investigating where the problem was would require a lot of experience on the part of the maintainer. Naturally, Hyojin has no relevant experience, but he has Byakugan, so where the problems of the Sky Fortress and where it needs to be repaired, he only needs to carefully observe and he can easily find the problem. Coupled with the assistance of the 3 generations of Kazekage puppets, it only took him 2 weeks to replace and repair the rotten parts inside the Sky Fortress. As for the power transmission system of the Sky Fortress, Hyojin hasn't fully understood it yet, so he doesn't dare to repair it. At present, the internal structure of the Sky Fortress has been stabilized after the repair. In the case of not being attacked by foreign enemies, there will not be any accidents of falling or disintegration from the air, but there are still problems with the power system of the Sky Fortress. It is not suitable for frequent long-distance movement. It is best to hover in one place and not move easily. Chapter 335. As soon as Umbu Team 11's half-month vacation ended, 3 generations assigned a new mission to Team 11, that is, to investigate Hiriko's whereabouts. The 3 generations also hinted to Captain Kakashi in private, instructing Kakashi to investigate the forbidden technique developed by Hiriko that can plunder other shinobi's Kekii limit. Obviously, the village was also very interested in the chimera technique developed by Hiriko. In fact, it's not only but according to the secret information sent back by the spies planted in the other major shinobi villages, it seems that apart from the Mist Village, the Cloud Village, the Rock Village, the Sand Crypsis, and even the weaker Kusanagi Village and Takigakure Village have all launched an investigation into Hiriko's demon art. Hyojin even suspects that many shinobi villages have begun to contact the Akatsuki in private. One must know that the noble shinobi of the shinobi world are called noble shinobi and enjoy treatment that ordinary people can't even dream of because of the Kekii limit that is rooted in their bloodline. Now, a forbidden technique that can seize multiple Kekii Genkai has appeared in the shinobi world, and it has been confirmed by the inventor of this technique that it is indeed effective. This news is no less than a bombshell in the shinobi world, and no one can remain indifferent about it. Even the powerful shinobi clans that possess Kekii Genkai are no exception. For example, the Hyuga clan, despite the death of the elder of the Hyuga clan, the Byakugan being taken away, and the secret vault being broken into, the Hyuga clan still held several clan meetings to discuss the impact of the Chimera Cure technique on the Hyuga clan and how the clan should deal with the possible threat. Because no one can determine whether Cage Bird Curse Seal can resist the devouring of Chimera technique and protect the Byakugan Kekii of the Hyuga clan from being taken away. After all, Hiriko used the Chimera technique to snatch away the Sharingan's Keketsu. As for the investigation of the intruder who killed the elder of the Hyuga clan and broke into the secret vault of the forbidden area, the Hyuga clan has fallen into a dead end. A whole month has passed, and the investigation has not made any progress. After the Zone clan's investigation, the Hyuga clansmen who were present at the time either had no motive, didn't have the strength to kill an elder of the Zone clan, or had an alibi. In any case, after an entire month of investigation, the Zone clan wasn't even able to find a single suspect. They had no clues at all. All the clues pointed to Orochimaru, who had defected a long time ago. As for Orochimaru, who was known as one of the Sannin and whose strength had long since reached the Kage level, even if the Zone clan wanted to investigate him, they had no way to do so. Because the Zone clan discovered to their sorrow that even the clan leader, Hayashi, wasn't a match for Orochimaru. As one of the most powerful shinobi clans in the Mai clan, the Hyuga clan couldn't even select a single clansman with the strength to hunt down and kill Orochimaru. And just as Richa expected, Although some members of the Zone clan proposed to conduct a comprehensive investigation on Hyojin, who was related to Orochimaru, Hayashi rejected the proposal to conduct a comprehensive investigation on Hyojin with the excuse that Hyojin was an Umbu subordinate to Naruto. In the face of Hayashi's rejection, the Zone clan didn't insist. Because with the preliminary investigation of Hyojin's interpersonal relationships, the Zone clan discovered that Hyojin was not only an Umbu subordinate to Naruto, but also the only Manjikyu Sharingan possessor of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Shirshuei. Due to Shinichi's defection, Fuyue and Itachi did not disclose the Manjikyu Sharingan. He also has a very good relationship with Itachi Uchiha, the eldest son of the Uchiha clan patriarch. It can be said that Hyojin has the most harmonious relationship with the Uchiha clan among the Hyuga clan. He is the bridge of communication between the Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan. In addition, Hatake Kakashi, the disciple of the Yondaime Naruto and a genius, also has a good relationship with Hyojin. Metke, who has recently risen to prominence in the village, is also a good friend of Hyojin. Moreover, the orphan of the land of demons Miko is currently temporarily living in Hyojin's home. Just the superficial interpersonal relationships of Hyojin are enough to make the Hyuga clan hesitate to take action, so Hyojin secretly prepared for a long time, only to find that the Hyuga clan retreated on their own, making him busy in vain. On this day, Hyojin happened to be resting at home, and Jishui hurriedly came to find him. After welcoming Jishui into the house, Hyojin asked, "What's the matter?" Jishui hesitated for a while and said, "Kuroda-san, I have thought about it for a long time, and I think it's best to report the information about the Akatsuki organization to the village." Shirsui also participated in the attack on Shino, so not only did he know that Kuroda has already obtained the technique of Chimera from Shino, but he also learned from Shino that the Akatsuki organization's headquarters is located in the country of Rain, and other important information about the Akatsuki organization. Hyojin didn't pay too much attention to this, because after Team 11 was ordered to investigate Hirako, Jishui has already discussed this matter with him several times. Jishui continued, "Kuroda-san, I think that as long as we find out that the headquarters of the Akatsuki organization is in the Land of Rain, and then contact the other villages to launch a surprise attack on the Land of Rain, it's very likely that we can destroy the Akatsuki organization." Hyojin nodded. If all the top forces of the 5 villages are gathered to launch a surprise attack on the Land of Rain, it's indeed possible to destroy the Akatsuki organization, but it's only a possibility. Seeing Hyojin nod, Jishui said happily, "Kuroda-san, do you also think that my plan is feasible? If it's just to destroy the Akatsuki organization, then your plan is indeed feasible." After a pause, Hyojin continued, "However, the success rate of completely destroying the Akatsuki organization is still hard to say at the moment. The core of the Akatsuki organization is actually Pain on the surface, and Obsidian and Zetsu behind the scenes. Pain has the Rain Tiger Freedom technique, and Zetsu also has a large number of clones, so even if the 5 villages work together to attack the Land of Rain, they will definitely be detected by the Akatsuki organization in advance. As long as the Akatsuki organization chooses to retreat, then no matter how many experts the 5 villages have, they won't be able to do anything to the Akatsuki organization. At most, they can only destroy the foundation of the Akatsuki organization in the Land of Rain. And in Hyojin's impression, Nagato, who controls the 6 paths of pain, has a special affection for the Land of Rain. He doesn't seem to have any intention of dragging the Land of Rain into the war. From the beginning to the end, only a few members of the Akatsuki organization are involved in the operation, so even if the 5 villages destroy the foundation of the Akatsuki organization in the Land of Rain, it won't be a big blow to the Akatsuki organization. What's more, it's impossible for the 5 villages to work together at the moment. If the 5 villages really want to work together, Then they have to wait until the Akatsuki organization starts collecting tailed beasts and offends all the 5 villages. Only then can the 5 villages work together to deal with the Akatsuki organization. Chapter 336. The pain of the Third Shinobi War has yet to completely dissipate, and the Akatsuki organization has yet to collect tailed beasts. Although the possibility of the 5 great shinobi villages joining hands is not non-existent, it is definitely not as easy as Jishui thinks. One must know that in the original story, the Akatsuki, as a mercenary organization, also cooperated with the great shinobi village. Therefore, as long as the Akatsuki realizes the danger and starts diplomatic means in a timely manner, the alliance of the 5 great shinobi villages will collapse in an instant. Moreover, the distrust between the 5 great shinobi villages has existed for a long time, and if they want to join forces to deal with the Akatsuki, even if the Kage summit is held again, it will inevitably take a long period of negotiations. At that time, the probability of the Akatsuki intercepting the intelligence of the 5 great shinobi villages will be infinitely higher. After all, the Sasori of the Akatsuki organization has planted his own spies in the upper echelons of the Sand Crypsis, so even Hyojin can't tell how many spies the Akatsuki organization has planted in the 5 great shinobi villages. Only by ensuring that the information was not leaked would the surprise attack be effective. As for how to ensure that the information was not leaked, perhaps only Hyojin could do it himself. However, what Hyojin lacked the most right now was time. Currently, he had to keep an eye on the ghost sprout and develop the fire escape doppelganger. He also had to try fusing the fire element chakra and lightning element chakra to develop a brand new bloodline limit, flame escape. In addition, he needs to further repair and upgrade the air fortress, improve the power system of the air fortress, add external armor to the air fortress, arrange a comprehensive defensive enchantment, and so on, turning this ruin that should have been buried in the long river of history along with the Sky Village into a real war weapon. In addition, he also has to find a way to uncover the spy lurking in the Hyuga clan and eradicate this hidden danger. It can be said that at this time, Hyojin is too busy to carry out the attack on the Akatsuki organization. This is also the reason why he suppressed Jishui and asked Jishui not to report the information about the Akatsuki organization to the village. To deal with the Akatsuki, it's either don't make a move or strike with lightning speed. If Jiraiya were to sneak in alone to collect intelligence, it would be easy to alert the Akatsuki, and it would also be easy to lose his life. Senior, there aren't many opportunities like this. If we miss it, we'll definitely regret it. Please make your decision. With that, Jishui stood up and bowed deeply to Hyojin. Shursui is a very simple person. Now that he knows the location of the Akatsuki's headquarters and the threat of the Akatsuki to the village, it is undoubtedly very difficult for him to pretend that he doesn't know anything and just sit back and watch the organization that threatens the village continue to grow. Even Kuroto can't suppress him for a long time. Because Jishui was loyal to the village, not to Hyojin. The reason why he listened to Hyojin was that Hyojin wanted to save the village and Uchiha. Seeing Jishui's resolute expression, Hyojin knew that he couldn't suppress this matter any longer, so he sighed and said, "All right then." Jishui was overjoyed and immediately said, "Then I'll go report to Naruto-sama." Wait. Hyojin stopped Jishui and immediately said, "Don't worry, we need to think about how to explain the source of the information first." Jishui sat back and nodded. After thinking for a while, Hyojin said slowly, "We can't report it at the moment, otherwise we won't be able to explain the source of the information. Only when Team 11 carries out the intelligence gathering mission tomorrow can we explain the source of the information." Jishui nodded lightly. In fact, explaining the source of the information isn't a very important thing. After all, ninjas have a variety of ways to obtain information. Even if it's nonsense, they can still deal with it. Therefore, Hyojin no longer mentioned explaining the source of the information and changed the topic. If we really want to deal an effective blow to the Akatsuki, it's not good to contact too many shinobi villages. Jishui immediately understood the meaning of Hyojin's words. Kuroto-san, are you worried that the information will be leaked? Well, don't underestimate the intelligence-gathering ability of the Akatsuki. After a pause, Hyojin continued, moreover, some shinobi villages have no grudge with the Akatsuki, so they may not be willing to take the risk to deal with the powerful Akatsuki. Among the 5 great shinobi villages, the Rock Village has no grudge with the Akatsuki, nor does it have much conflict of interest with the Akatsuki, so it would be too time-consuming to persuade them to deal with the Akatsuki. As for the current situation of the Mist Village, Hyojin doesn't know. He only knows that when Madara was alive, the Mist Village was infiltrated by Madara. Even the tailed beast of the Mist Village was used as a tool by Madara to provoke the Obsidian. Therefore, contacting the Mist Village is no different from contacting the Akatsuki. After excluding the Rock and Mist villages, only Konoha, Cloud, and Sand villages are left among the 5 great shinobi villages. As for Mai, there's no need to mention it. As for Kumo, because Hirako used the Mist release, the Akatsuki disguised as Amatsukami to attack the Yondaime Leiying and abduct the Mist release Kekkei Genkai has long been exposed. With the short temper of the Yondaime Leiying, he will definitely agree to deal with the Akatsuki. As for the Sand Crypsis, because 3 generations Kazekage died in the hands of Sasori, and Sasori joined the Akatsuki, the probability of the Sand Crypsis agreeing to deal with the Akatsuki is very high. Although the Sand Crypsis has been heavily infiltrated by the Akatsuki because of Sasori, the Yondaime Kazekage still holds the power of the Sand Crypsis. As long as Mai secretly notifies the Yondaime Kazekage about Sasori's spies in the Sand Crypsis, it is still possible to prevent the information from being leaked. Hyojin told Jishui about his considerations. Jishui nodded repeatedly. Kuroto-san, you are very thoughtful. However, how can we make the village give up on contacting the Rock and Mist ninjas? Without these 2 villages, their combat power will be weakened a lot. The corner of Hyojin's mouth curled up, and he said with a smile, "Isn't it easy? We can directly report false information to the village, saying that the Rock and Mist ninjas have a private deal with the Akatsuki and can no longer be trusted." Listening to Hyojin report false information as if it was as easy as eating tea, Jishui was speechless. Patting Jishui's shoulder, Hyojin said, "If you want to do something, you must consider all aspects of the problem, and when the time is right, you must also use some harmless means." Jishui no longer hesitated and said, "Well, I understand." After sending off Jishui, Hyojin frowned. The attack on the Akatsuki organization this time is really not the best time, and it makes Hyojin a little uncomfortable, so he must replan the next schedule. Chapter 337. The next morning, the 11th Squad of the Black Ops gathered again and went out of the village to collect information. During the last mission 2 weeks ago, because Hyojin suppressed Jishui and did not report any information about the Akatsuki organization, Kakashi, as the captain, did not have any direction to investigate and spent nearly 2 weeks to no avail. As soon as they left the village, Kakashi said to everyone, "Same as last time, let's split up." Hyojin took the lead and suggested, "This time I will go to the Rain Country to investigate." Jishui then said, "I will go to the Grass Country." Guy hesitated for a moment and said, "Then I will go to the River Country." Kakashi nodded and agreed to their suggestion. "I'm going to the nation of Long. We'll meet here in 2 weeks," he said. "I'm going to the nation of Long. We'll meet here in 2 weeks." After a short discussion, the 11th Squad began to split up. Naturally, Hyojin would not really go to the Rain Country to investigate. It was not that he was not confident that he could escape from the Rain Country, but he did not want to alert the Akatsuki organization. After a round and quietly returned to the Sky Fortress, Hyojin first checked the cultivation of the ghost sprout. After more than a month of cultivation, failures began to appear one after another. Among the 100 petri dishes, more than 40 had serious rejection reactions. However, this was all within Hyojin's expectations, so he was very calm. Accepting failure but not succumbing to it is a quality that a researcher must have. Therefore, even if all 100 petri dishes fail, Kuroto's footsteps will not stop or hesitate in the slightest. After checking the cultivation of the ghost sprout, Hyojin immediately used the Tenseigan's soul descending technique and put his spirit body into the fire body clone. After moving a little, Hyojin sighed and said, "This fire body clone's foundation is still a little weak in terms of the strength of the clone. This female body's fire escape clone was obviously weaker than the previous water escape clone, and this difference was directly reflected in the physical quality. For example, the chakra amount of the fire body clone was only about 70% of the water body clone's chakra amount. Although because of the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan transplant, the fire body clone's combat power was much stronger than the water body clone, but for Hyojin, the clone met the requirements of his bloodline trap plan. Standing naked on the electronic scale, Hyojin measured and recorded the various physical data of the fire body clone. Naked, Hyojin stood on the electronic scale and measured and recorded the physical data of the fire body clone. Soaked in the nutrient solution, the fire release clone developed very quickly in all aspects, so the female characteristics of the clone became more and more obvious, which caused a lot of trouble for him. After changing into the combat suit, Kuroto came to a practice room that he had specially opened inside the fortress. With his hands supporting his chin, Hyojin began to ponder. Developing the flame release was not something that Hyojin came up with on the spur of the moment. Whether or not the flame release bloodline inheritance existed in history, Hyojin could not verify it. However, in the original timeline, Uchiha Sasuke had indeed mastered the flame release bloodline inheritance and developed a black flame that looked very similar to the Amaterasu. He could even control the shape of this black flame, because of the experience of using the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, and also the experience of controlling the special golden flames in the state of Susanoo. Hyojin has some speculations about the flame release. He believed that flame escape was not like ice escape, which was a blood limit created by the fusion of two different attributes of chakra. In addition to the fusion of the two different attributes of fire chakra and thunder chakra, the flame release seemed to require a special pupil power. In other words, flame release is very likely to be a blood limit unique to the Uchiha clan. Only by having the three elements of fire chakra, thunder chakra, and Sharingan, it is possible to master the flame release bloodline inheritance. Coincidentally, Hyojin's fire release clone had these three elements at the same time, so it was completely natural for Hyojin to open the flame release bloodline inheritance. Unlike other ninjas, because of the experience of developing the ice release bloodline inheritance, Hyojin still has a lot of experience on how to fuse two different attributes of chakra. After quickly printing, Hyojin shouted, "Fire release! Great fireball technique!" Boom! In an instant, a huge fireball appeared in the practice room. After extinguishing the great fireball, Hyojin frowned slightly, and his face showed a thoughtful expression. Relatively speaking, fire chakra is more difficult to control than water chakra, and thunder chakra is more difficult to control than wind chakra, so the fusion of fire chakra and thunder chakra is far more difficult than the fusion of water chakra and wind chakra. When he just used Great Fireball technique, Hyojin tried to integrate thunder chakra into it, but the Great Fireball technique was completely pure fire release ninjutsu, without the slightest change in nature. Is it because the fusion of the two attributes of chakra failed? Or is it because I didn't infuse it with pupil power? Thinking of this, the black eyes in the eye sockets of Hyojin's fire release clone suddenly turned scarlet, and then changed again, revealing a complex pattern on the scarlet eyes. After activating the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, Hyojin printed again and shouted, "Fire release! Great fireball technique!" Boom! Just like before, the fireball appeared again, and the whole practice room was illuminated red. After extinguishing the great fireball, Hyojin curled his lips. Why is there still no change? After thinking for a while, Hyojin simply activated Susanoo. Whir! In an instant, a golden shadow appeared in the practice room. Hyojin controlled the pupil power and picked a golden flame from Susanoo. While playing with it in his hand, he thought, "My pair of Sharingan without the pupil technique Amaterasu, I am afraid it will be difficult to develop the black flame like Sasuke. But I have the golden flame, maybe I can use this as a foundation to try to develop the golden flame release." After making up his mind, Hyojin looked at the golden flame in his hand. Unlike ordinary flames, the golden flame in Hyojin's hand was not afraid of water. Although it would be affected to a certain extent, it could still burn underwater. This was similar to the black flame of Amaterasu, but it was not as domineering as the black flame of Amaterasu. Putting the golden flame in his mouth, Hyojin printed again and shouted, "Fire release! Great fireball technique!" In an instant, the flame spewed out of Hyojin's mouth suddenly changed when it passed through the golden flame in his mouth. Although most of the flame was still ordinary fire release flame, a small part of the flame did become dazzling golden. Chapter 338. Late at night, inside the Sky Fortress. Hyojin was half kneeling on the ground. His chest was heaving up and down as he gasped violently. Large drops of sweat ran from his forehead all the way down his cheeks, and finally dripped on the stone bricks on the ground, leaving a pool of water on the ground. After a while, Hyojin recovered, gritted his teeth and stood up again. Although he had already expected that it would not be easy to develop flame release, but after the actual operation, he found that the difficulty of developing flame release is far beyond his imagination. Among them, the most troublesome point is that he must activate Susanoo. With the help of the golden flames in the state of Susanoo, he can barely touch the threshold of flame release's nature change. In other words, if he wants to practice the nature change of flame release, he must maintain the state of Susanoo for a long time. Even if he has the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan that can restore the pupil power, maintaining Susanoo for a long time is a very heavy burden for Hyojin. After all, this pair of Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan belongs to Uchiha Ryota. Although the fire clone has the bloodline of the Uchiha clan, this pair of eyes is not the clone's own eyes. In terms of compatibility and the consumption of pupil technique chakra, the fire clone is undoubtedly more strenuous than the original owner, Uchiha Ryota. After wiping the sweat on his face, Hyojin once again activated the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and activated Susanoo. After many practices, he has also figured out some small tricks to save chakra when practicing flame release. For example, at this moment, he only activated the incomplete version of Susanoo, so only a few golden rib shadows enveloped his body, not a complete golden giant. Hyojin slowed down the speed of hand seals, slowly printing at a frequency of 1 hand seal per second. The reason why he did this is because in the practice, he found that it is very difficult to fuse the nature of fire chakra and lightning chakra. These two attributes of chakra are unstable in state, and it is extremely difficult to fuse these two unstable chakra together and produce a change in nature. What's more, in this process, Hyojin also needs to use the golden flame on Susanoo as a medium, and at the same time inject the Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil power, so Hyojin must slow down the speed of hand seals in order to barely complete the fusion of the two different attributes of chakra and perfectly inject the Sharingan's pupil power. From this point alone, it can be seen that there is still a clear gap between Hyojin and those real geniuses in the control of chakra. After completing 17 hand seals, Kuroto shouted in a low voice, "Flame release. Fire dragon technique." Voila! In an instant, a golden dragon spewed out from Hyojin's mouth and hovered over the practice room, illuminating the whole practice room as if it was daytime. The flame release ninjutsu that Hyojin is using is a copy of the C-class fire release ninjutsu, Dragon Fire technique, but because of the need to inject the lightning chakra and the Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil power into this ninjutsu, the 4 hand seals of Dragon Fire technique have evolved into the current 17 hand seals, but if he puts in some effort, Hyojin is confident that he can compress the number of hand seals to less than 10. Of course, this is not the key point. The real key point is that Hyojin must be in the state of Susanoo in order to complete the nature change and display the golden flame that represents his own flame release. But in the state of Susanoo, he can also control the golden flame with the Manjikyu Sharingan's pupil power, so the flame release, that can only be performed with the help of Susanoo, is meaningless, because this shows that his fire clone has not truly mastered the flame release Kekkei limit at all. This situation is similar to the Tenseigan chakra mode of Suijin. He can use the Tenseigan chakra mode to condense the truth-seeking ball, but his Yin body isn't a true 6-path level, and it doesn't have the physical and spiritual strength of a 6-path level. Why can Sasuke use flame release in his normal state, but I can't? Staring at the golden flame dragon that is still hovering above his head, Hyojin frowned. In the shinobi world, nothing is exclusive. As long as the necessary conditions are met, any ninjutsu can be used, so Hyojin carefully thought about the difference between his current self and Sasuke when he developed flame release. Is it because my fusion of 2 different chakra attributes isn't perfect enough? Or is my current pupil power not comparable to that of Sasuke at that time? After pondering for a moment, Hyojin secretly speculated. In the fusion of the fire attribute chakra and the lightning attribute chakra, Hyojin feels that although he did not do it perfectly, it is still in line with the norm, so the problem should not be in this aspect. Then the problem should be in the pupil power. When he developed flame release, Sasuke already had the Manjikyu Sharingan, and this pair of eyes was obtained by fusing the Manjikyu Sharingan of his blood relative Itachi Uchiha. It is the eyes that completely match his body and soul. In addition, there was Indra's chakra in his body, so his pupil power at that time was already very strong. It can be said that at that time, he was second only to Uchiha Madara in the 6-paths state. Therefore, the pupil power of Hyojin's fire release clone at this time should not be comparable to Sasuke's pupil power at that time. The improvement of the pupil power is either to awaken a higher form of the eyes, or to accumulate little by little over a long period of time, or to directly instill the Yin power in the power of the 6 paths, which represents the spiritual power of the 6 paths, to Sasuke, so that Sasuke directly opened a Gogaku Rinnegan in an instant. Apart from this, there is basically no other way. The Manjikyu Sharingan in the eye sockets of Hyojin's fire release clone is already the highest form of the Sharingan. If he wants to continue to improve the pupil power through evolution, he can only evolve the Rinnegan by absorbing the power of the Senju clan. But the evolution of the Rinnegan is by no means as simple as the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and the power of the Senju clan. It must be known that Uchiha Madara, who has Indra Chakra and the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, after the Battle of the Valley of the End, he faked his death and got the cells of the first generation, but after decades of accumulation, he just evolved the Rinnegan before he died. It can be seen that the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and the Senju body is only the minimum threshold to evolve the Rinnegan. If you think that as long as you have a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, you can easily evolve the Rinnegan, it is undoubtedly too naive. Chapter 339. The idea of evolving the Eye of Reincarnation flashed in Hyojin's mind and was immediately thrown to the back of his mind. In order to evolve the Eye of Reincarnation, Hyojin not only needs to resurrect Ryota Uchiha and use his body as a hotbed, but he also needs to solve the big problem of primal cells implantation. The activity of primal cells is even more tyrannical than cancer cells. Once injected into the fire clone, regardless of success or failure, the fire clone will no longer meet the requirements of Hyojin's bloodline network plan, so the evolution of the Eye of Reincarnation can be skipped. The Sage of Six Paths obviously can't instill the power of six paths into Hyojin and let him open the Eye of Reincarnation while lying down, so instilling this method will undoubtedly not work. Thinking of this, Hyojin has to accept a reality. That is, with the current situation of the fire clone, if he wants to completely master the flame release, it will probably take a long time. If he wants to make a breakthrough, he either needs to fuse the fire attribute chakra and the lightning attribute chakra to reach unprecedented perfection, or he needs to accumulate enough pupil power. The former requires a lot of practice, and the latter requires time to accumulate. In any case, it is unrealistic to want to master the flame release in a week or two. In the next 2 weeks, Hyojin didn't waste time. He immersed himself in training day and night. Fortunately, he has the support of Dragon Vein Chakra, otherwise, with such high-intensity training, with the weak foundation of the fire clone, he really may not be able to persist. When the day of the assembly of Class 11 arrived, Hyojin changed back to his Een body and quickly rushed to the assembly point. When Hyojin arrived, he found that the other 3 people of Class 11 are already there. Among them, Kakashi seems to be injured. His shoulder is wrapped in bandages. Hyojin asked, "Did you encounter trouble?" Kakashi nodded. "Yes, I met a group of traitorous ninjas." Hyojin joked, "To be able to injure you, it seems that this group of traitorous ninjas is not simple." Recalling the scene at that time, Kakashi's face became a bit solemn. That group of traitorous ninjas is indeed a bit unusual. One of them seems to have an immortal body. Immortal body? Kai and Shursui cried out in surprise. Kakashi sighed. "Whether or not it's an immortal body, I'm not too sure. Perhaps it's the same as that Yomi of the Demon Country. That guy has some kind of secret technique that can quickly heal his wounds." After saying that, Kakashi no longer discussed the group of renegade ninjas that injured him, and instead turned to the others and asked, "Did anyone gain anything from this information gathering?" Then, he turned to the others and asked, "This time, did you get anything?" Kuroto chuckled and said, "The harvest on my side is not small. We can report to Hokage-sama this time." Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Kakashi's drooping eyes suddenly focused and he asked, "What did you get?" Hyojin did not beat around the bush, and directly told Kakashi the speech that he had long prepared. After listening to Hyojin's story, Guy didn't think much about it and said, "Great, we finally found the Akatsuki's lair." Kakashi was a little puzzled. How is that possible? The Rain Country is the territory of that demigod. Why would he allow the Akatsuki to occupy his territory? Hyojin explained, "Hanzo died a long time ago, and it was said that the one who killed him was the leader of the Akatsuki." Hiss, Kakashi and Kai sucked in a breath of cold air. In the eyes of ordinary ninjas, the demigod Hanzo of the Land of Rain is an existence that is close to the level of a god. The Sannin of Konoha shook the entire shinobi world, and the name Sannin was bestowed by Hanzo. From this, it can be seen that Hanzo's prestige in the shinobi world is very high. Thinking that even the demigod Hanzo died quietly in the hands of the Akatsuki, Kakashi's fear of the Akatsuki deepened. "It seems that the Akatsuki's strength is much stronger than we thought." With a gloomy face, Kakashi said, "We must report this information to Naruto-sama as soon as possible. Come, let's go back to the village." In an instant, the 4 people of Team 11 rushed back to the village. On the way, Jishui whispered to Hyojin, "Senpai, are you okay?" Hyojin was startled and asked, "What's wrong? I'm fine." Jishui said, "I don't know why, but I feel that you are very tired." Hyojin smiled and said, "Hee, I'm fine. I'm just a little tired from the long journey. Because he was using the Een release, Hyojin's body didn't feel tired at all. What was really tired was the soul in his body. After all, he had been practicing the flame release for 2 weeks, so he was a little tired. However, Jishui could see the exhaustion in his soul, which surprised him a little. Kakashi and Kai didn't notice it at all. It seemed that Jishui's ocular power had improved recently, and she could vaguely detect the abnormality of the soul. Soon Team 11 returned to the village and went to Naruto's office. As usual, Sandaime-sama was buried in a pile of documents, and the wrinkles on his face increased day by day. Even when Class 11 came to report the progress of the mission, he didn't even raise his head. His eyes were still on the documents on the table. After listening to Kakashi's report, the 3 generations suddenly looked up and asked, "Did you find the base of Akatsuki?" Kakashi nodded. "It's in the Rain Country and Kuroto found it." Rain Country. As he mulled over the words Rain Country, Sandaime revealed the same puzzled expression as Kakashi. Obviously, he also thought of the master of the Rain Country, the demigod Hanzo, but he didn't ask directly like Kakashi. Hyojin reported, "Hanzo died in the hands of the Akatsuki's leader." Now in the Rain Country, except for a small number of people loyal to Hanzo, the rest is under the control of the Akatsuki. The surprised look flashed on the face of the 3 generations, and he asked, "Is this news true?" Hyojin nodded and said, "I have interrogated several Rain ninjas, and all the information I got is consistent, so I personally think this news is true." The 3 generations picked up the pipe, put it in his mouth, and muttered, "Even Hanzo died in the hands of the Akatsuki?" Hyojin continued, "When I interrogated the Rain ninjas, I also got another piece of information. The Rock Village and the Mist Village seem to have some kind of cooperation with the Akatsuki. If we want to deal with the Akatsuki, then we can't trust these 2 villages." Jishui said, "If we gather the 3 villages of Mai, Cloud, and Sand Crypsis, it should be enough to deal with the Akatsuki." The 3 generations got up and thought for a while. After a while, he returned to the table and wrote 2 letters, then handed them to Kakashi and said, "Hand these 2 letters to Lei Ying and Kazekage personally." Chapter 340. The howling winds swept up the yellow sand in the sky, turning the world into a patch of darkness. The travelers walking on the sand dunes seemed incomparably small, like 2 inconspicuous dots in a dim yellow painting. The 2 travelers walking in the sandstorm are none other than Hyojin and Jishui from my Umbu Team 11. There is no need to describe to the 3 generations how dangerous the Akatsuki organization is, as long as they inform the 3 generations about the death of demigod Hanzo. With the experience of the 3 generations, they will naturally understand that if they want to launch an effective attack on the Akatsuki organization, then the surprise of the attack is the key to the success or failure of the entire operation, so they must ensure that the information is not leaked. Therefore, the 3 generations didn't arrange other Umbu members to contact Cloud Village and Sand Crypsis, but directly gave this important task to Team 11, who just reported the information about the Akatsuki organization. To contact 2 villages at the same time, Team 11 must be divided into 2 groups, so according to the old practice, Kakashi and Guy are divided into one group, responsible for contacting Cloud Village, while Hyojin and Jishui are divided into the other group, responsible for contacting Sand Crypsis. The yellow sand is blowing all over the sky, making people unable to open their eyes. Jishui squinted his eyes and looked around, then immediately asked Hyojin loudly, "Hyo-san, are we going in the right direction?" Because this is a secret mission, Hyojin and Jishui didn't take the commercial road with high traffic, but chose a small road with frequent sandstorms. Byakugan, open! Hyojin activated Byakugan and carefully observed the surroundings. But at the moment they are in the depression of the hill, and the surrounding area is blocked by the raised sand dunes, so the vision is very poor. Even if Hyojin activated Byakugan, the effective vision is extremely limited, so he can't determine the direction at all. Hyojin slowly closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, the white pupils in his eye sockets have become sky blue. After activating the Tenseigan, Kuroto quickly made hand seals with his hand. In an instant, a soft blue Tenseigan chakra wrapped around his body, allowing him to enter the Tenseigan chakra mode. Hyojin, who entered the Tenseigan chakra mode, just waved his hand, and under the activation of rain pull, the surrounding wind suddenly stagnated. Under the influence of the huge repulsive force, a large circle of windless belt appeared around him. Then, his figure flashed and turned into a blue ray of light. He leaped into the air and looked down at his surroundings. Not long after, Hyojin landed on the ground and exited the Tenseigan chakra mode and said, "The direction is correct, but the range of this sandstorm is not small. I'm afraid we will have to eat more sand." Jishui said apologetically, "Kuroto-san, I'm sorry for dragging you down." Although the scene just now was just a casual action of Hyojin, but for Jishui, he can easily create a windless belt in the sandstorm and fly freely. Hyojin's strength really shocked him. Hyojin waved his hand. The sandstorm in front of him is a dead zone for ordinary people if they are not careful, but for Hyojin, it is just a little trouble. Occasionally walking slowly in the sandstorm is also a rare experience. Jishui couldn't help but ask curiously, "Kuroto-san, the leader of the Akatsuki organization, has the legendary Rinnegan of the Sage of Six Paths. Not only can he use all ninjutsu, but he can also control life and death reincarnation. Compared to your Tenseigan, which is stronger?" Hyojin was stunned. He didn't expect Jishui to suddenly ask this question. After thinking for a while, Hyojin replied, "I haven't fought with him. It's hard to say who is stronger and who is weaker, but his Rinnegan and my Tenseigan should have their own advantages in terms of ability. In the end, it depends on the strength of the user. Pupil technique Kekiai limit, to some extent, can also be regarded as a weapon, and the strength of the weapon has an inseparable relationship with the user. Nagato is limited by his Rinnegan, which is not his own, so there will inevitably be some inconsistencies in the use of the Rinnegan. In Hyojin's impression, Nagato's Rinnegan can also launch a terrifying pupil technique called Rinnegan Prison in the body of the original owner, Uchiha Madara, but Nagato has never used this pupil technique. It can be seen that Nagato can't fully exert the power of his Rinnegan. In this respect, Hyojin has a big advantage, because his Tenseigan is his own, and it is perfectly compatible with his body and spirit body. There is no problem of coordination and compatibility. But Hyojin also has his own problem, that is, he found that his development of the Tenseigan has completely fallen into a stagnation recently. And what makes him even more distressed is that he has no idea why he fell into this inexplicable stagnation, as if something is restricting his Tenseigan. Or more precisely, it seems that something is restricting the entire Hyuga clan. This kind of feeling, Hyojin has only recently developed, almost at the same time as the growth of his Tenseigan stagnation, so he speculates that maybe he has developed his Tenseigan to the limit of a certain stage, so that he can barely have this kind of sensing ability. "Jishui is full of confidence in Hyojin," he said. "I believe you will not lose." Hyojin smiled and shook his head. Nagato Shinra Tensei in his extreme state can flatten the entire my clan at once, and after fighting my clan, fighting Naruto in Sage mode and Naruto in Berserk mode, he even has enough chakra to resurrect tens of thousands of dead people on the battlefield at once, showing the chakra's amount of Uzumaki clan's sage body vividly. Hyojin is not afraid of Nagato, but if it is really a battle of life and death, Hyojin doesn't dare to guarantee that he will be the one to survive in the end. Jishui said with a hopeful look on his face, "I hope that this raid can completely eliminate the Akatsuki organization." Hyojin glanced at Jishui and said lightly, "Don't have too high expectations. The success or failure of this operation is actually more dependent on the response of the Akatsuki organization. As long as they don't make any mistakes, it will be difficult for us to catch them in one fell swoop." The two chatted along the way, and after an hour, they finally passed through the sandstorm. At this time, a team of patrolling Sand Crypsis ninjas stopped them and asked, "Who are you, and why are you here?" Hyojin and Jishui took off their cloaks at the same time, revealing their My Ninja clothes, and explained, "We are My Ninjas, and we came to the Sand Crypsis under the order of Naruto. Because this is a liaison mission, Hyojin and Jishui are wearing normal My Ninja clothes, and didn't wear Umbu clothes." After the captain of the Sand Crypsis patrol team sized up Hyojin and Jishui, he said, "Both of you, please follow me." Currently, the Sand Crypsis and Mai are allies who have signed an agreement, and both sides are in frequent contact with ninjas, so the captain of the Sand Crypsis patrol team is not too surprised by the arrival of Hyojin and Jishui. Chapter 341. Under the leadership of the Sand Crypsis patrol, Hyojin and Jishui entered the Sand Crypsis village from a hidden side door. As one of the 5 great shinobi villages, the size of the Sand Crypsis village is naturally not small. It is located in a long and narrow valley, surrounded by towering rock walls, like a natural city wall, protecting the entire village inside. And in the valley where the Sand Crypsis village is located, as well as in the vicinity, there are large and small oases, which ensure an adequate water source, so the Sand Crypsis village can survive in the desert. Walking in the Sand Crypsis village, Hyojin's first feeling is depression. Although the geographical location of the Sand Crypsis village is already excellent in the Land of Wind, but compared to the other great shinobi villages, the Sand Crypsis village is still too remote and poor. This is mainly because the natural environment of the Land of Wind is too harsh. Although the land area is huge, the habitable areas are all around the limited oases. Therefore, whether it is population or national power, the Land of Wind is at the bottom of the 5 great shinobi countries, which also leads to the limited support of the Land of Wind to the Sand Crypsis village. Therefore, the strength of the Sand Crypsis village is also ranked at the bottom among the 5 great shinobi villages. Even the Mist village, which has experienced decades of turmoil and recently had a large-scale Kekkei shinobi rebellion, is probably stronger than the Sand Crypsis village. From the distribution of the tailed beasts, some clues can be seen. The Cloud, Rock, and Mist clans each have 2 tailed beasts, while Mai, Sand Crypsis, and Takanobi each have 1 tailed beast. But Mai has the strongest 9 tails, so even though he only has 1 tailed beast, he is not inferior to the Cloud, Rock, and Mist clans in terms of tailed beasts. On the other hand, the Sand Crypsis only had 1 tailed beast, and it was the weakest of all the tailed beasts. In this regard, it was even inferior to the Taki village. The captain of the Sand Crypsis patrol team brought him to the guest house of the Sand Crypsis village. Hyojin immediately requested to meet the 4 generations of Kazekage. The leader of the Sand Crypsis patrol team agreed to inform Hyojin and left with his men. After the Sand Crypsis ninja left, Jishui sighed. The situation in the Sand Crypsis seems to be very bad. Hyojin nodded. I heard that the Wind Nation's daimyo has recently cut down on the Sand Crypsis's budget. Jishui was confused. Why? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the Sand Crypsis is already very weak. At this time, the Wind Nation's daimyo still wants to reduce the support for the Sand Crypsis, which is undoubtedly one disaster after another for the Sand Crypsis. And once the Sand Crypsis's strength completely declines, the Wind Nation will inevitably become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Hyojin explained, because the Sand Crypsis and Mai have formed an alliance, in the short term, no shinobi village will dare to attack them. Without external pressure, the Wind Nation's daimyo will naturally save as much as possible. Shui frowned and said, "Isn't that too short-sighted?" "It is indeed a bit short-sighted," after a pause, Hyojin continued, "but this also shows that the Wind Nation is really out of money. The reason why the Sand Crypsis can still maintain its status as one of the 5 great shinobi villages is completely relying on the 4 generations of Kazekage's magnet release to make gold in the Sea of Sand to supplement the finances of the Sand Crypsis village. Hyojin has also tried this method of making money, but he has failed. Because even if it is the same Kekkei Genkai, because of the different users, the nature of chakra in the body will have certain differences, and this difference will be fed back to the Kekkei Genkai, resulting in different results. For example, Uchiha Sasuke's fire release is Black Flame, while Hyojin's fire clone's fire release is Gold Flame. The nature of chakra in the body of the 3 generations of Kazekage corresponds to iron and metal, so the magnet release of the 3 generations of Kazekage is mainly iron sand, and the chakra in the body of the 4 generations of Kazekage corresponds to gold. Therefore, his magnet release can not only be used in combat, but also to make money. It is the most profitable Kekkei Genkai in the shinobi world. In the Kazekage building, the Sand Crypsis patrol captain quickly reported the request of Messenger Mai to meet the Kazekage to the 4 generations of Kazekage. However, the 4 generations of Kazekage seemed to be thinking about something. After listening to the report, he just waved his hand absent-mindedly, as if he didn't care about the matter at all. Seeing this, the Sand Crypsis patrol captain had no choice but to leave the Kazekage's office. A moment later, the Sand Crypsis elder Chiyo came to the Kazekage's office, stared at the 4 generations of Kazekage and asked, "Have you decided?" The 4 generations of Kazekage nodded and said, "I have to make a choice tonight. If he can pass the test, he can live. Otherwise, I can only use him as a threat and kill him." Chiyo sighed softly and immediately asked, "Who is the one who made the move?" The 4 generations of Kazekage coldly spat out 3 words, "Yakamaru." Chiyo was a little surprised. "What? You want to send Yakamaru to make the move? He is the younger brother of Gamuro. It's too risky for you to do this." "Risky?" The 4 generations of Kazekage's face darkened. "Then," he said, "but this is the only way to test his tolerance, so that I can distinguish whether he is a human pillar that protects the village or a monster that threatens the village. I have no other choice." In the blink of an eye, night fell. In the guest house of the Sand Crypsis village, Hyojin and Jishui were still waiting for the 4 generations of Kazekage's summons. However, there was no response from the Sand Crypsis even when the sky was getting dark. Jishui took a sip of tea and said, "Senpai, do you think it's possible that the Kazekage is not in the village?" Hyojin, who was leaning on the side, shook his head. "Maybe." Logically speaking, Hyojin and Jishui came to the Sand Crypsis this time on behalf of Mai and Naruto. If the Kazekage was in the village, he should have met them immediately. At this moment, Hyojin suddenly frowned and looked through the window not far away. After a few breaths, Jishui also noticed something and suddenly stood up from the chair. "Senpai, I feel a very huge and violent chakra." Hyojin said, "Yes, I feel it too, and it seems to be coming towards us." In the Kazekage's office, swoosh, amidst the sound of wind breaking, an umbu of the Sand Crypsis entered the Kazekage's office. He knelt on one knee and reported to the 4 generations of Kazekage, "Lord Kazekage, Yakamaru is dead." The 4 generations of Kazekage did not look back. Instead, they kept looking out the window. The 4 generations of Kazekage had witnessed the whole process of Yakamaru's death through the eye of the sand. He even knew that the monster was walking in the direction of the guest house, so he asked the umbu, "There's no one in the guest house, right?" The umbu quickly said, "There are 2 messengers from my staying in the guest house today." The 4 generations of Kazekage also recalled the previous patrol captain's report and immediately frowned. "Hurry up and inform Mai's messengers to evacuate." At the guest house, In the hall, Hyojin saw the source of the violent chakra. It was a 6-year-old child with red hair, a conspicuous love character on his forehead, and 2 dark circles under his eyes. Chapter 342. Yukura, the captain of the Sand Crypsis Black operation, who had just finished her mission and returned to the village, hurried to the Wind Shadow building. However, before she could enter the building, she met the 4 generations of Kazekage who had led the group out. Yukura frowned and asked anxiously, "Did Gaara lose control again?" The 4 generations of Kazekage nodded with an embarrassed expression. As time passed, the violent Shoha's influence on the young Gaara's mind became more and more serious. This also caused Gaara, as the Sand Crypsis's pillar of strength, to be on the verge of losing control for a long time. He would often fall into a state of losing control, bringing great losses to the Sand Crypsis. This was also the reason why the 4 generations of Kazekage tested Gaara tonight. However, judging from the results of the test, Gaara obviously failed because he lost control again. At this time, the Sand Crypsis Elder Chiyo and Hai Laozong also rushed over. Feeling the violent chakra of the Shoha that filled the air, Chiyo's face was gloomy. She said to the 4 generations of Kazekage, "We must control the Shoha as soon as possible." Because of their fighting style, the puppet master didn't have a good way to deal with the tailed beast. Even a puppet master as strong as Chiyo would find it difficult to deal with the Shoha. Basically, he could only protect himself and couldn't suppress the raging Shoha. Yukura, who had the burning release blood limit boundary, had little chance of winning against the Shoha. In the entire Sand Crypsis, the only one who could suppress the Shoha was Luo Sha of the 4 generations of Kazekage, who had the magnetic release blood limit boundary. This was also one of the reasons why Luo Sha could become the 4 generations of Kazekage. Through the eye of the sand, the 4 generations of Kazekage saw Gaara stumbling into the guest house. The expression of the 4 generations of Kazekage became even gloomier. Yukura asked, "What's wrong?" The 4 generations of Kazekage answered, "He entered the guest house." Guest house? After a pause, Yitsong asked, "There aren't any important people in the guest house, right?" A member of the Sand Crypsis Secret Service behind the 4 generations of Kazekage stepped forward and said, "2 messengers of mine came to the village today, and they happened to be arranged to stay in the guest house." "What?" Yitsong was shocked. Although Ayler was only 6 years old in the Sand Crypsis, he was already a veritable monster. The Yaksha Maru who died in his hands tonight was an elite of the Sand Crypsis Umbu, but he was still easily killed by him. It can be said that in a state of losing control, an ordinary Jonin is simply not a match for me. Therefore, Yukura was very worried that the messengers of Mai would die in the hands of Ayler. At that time, it would be difficult for the Sand Crypsis to explain to Mai. At this time, once the Sand Crypsis lost an ally like Mai, the situation would be even more difficult. The 4 generations of Kazekage also knew that this was their mistake, so they did not waste any more time and flew in the direction of the guest house with a gloomy face. In the guest house, "Is it Gaara?" Hyojin said to himself. He was really a little curious why a child like Gaara would come to the guest house in the middle of the night. Jishui said while being on guard, "Senpai, this child doesn't look right." Hyojin nodded. Even a fool could see that there was something wrong with the Gaara in front of him. At that moment, his face was ferocious, his expression was twisted, and there was saliva dripping from the corner of his mouth. His expression and behavior made him look like an evil spirit that had broken out of the underworld. Just looking at him would make one shudder. Gaara staggered toward Hyojin and Jishui and said, "Die, all of you must die." As if responding to Gaara's words, a sand surged from Gaara's side and rushed toward Hyojin and Jishui as if it had a mind of its own. Boom! Hyojin raised his hand gently and repelled all the sand that was rushing toward him. Seems like I've lost control. His eyes focused and a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. There was no doubt that the Sand Crypsis was lacking in talent. As a Jinchuriki, Gaara was the key to the Sand Crypsis maintaining its position as one of the 5 great ninja villages in the future. Once something happened to Gaara, he did not need to do anything extra. As long as he waited for 10 years, the Sand Crypsis would naturally weaken to the extreme and even lose its position as one of the 5 great ninja villages. At that time, the Sand Crypsis would change from Mai's ally to Mai's vassal. In the end, it might even become Mai's puppet. Once the situation was set, as long as it was done properly, there was no need for war or bloodshed. Mai could annex the Sand Crypsis and peacefully swallow the entire Sand Crypsis village. This was undoubtedly the best time to plot against the Sand Crypsis. As long as the Sand Crypsis gave up on Gaara, the Sand Crypsis would lose its future. Under such circumstances, Hyojin did not even need to find an excuse to make a move. Even if he made a move, it would be in self-defense and no one would be able to find any fault with it. Making up his mind, Kuroto's eyes gradually turned cold. He knew that the best way to stimulate Era is to make him bleed, just like Sasuke in the original time and space. Era, who has never bled or been injured, bleed once. Swoosh, in a flash, Hyojin appeared in front of Gaara. Whoosh, without Gaara's control, the sand surged and rushed toward Hyojin from all directions. Kuroto waved his hand fiercely, and all the sand in the air was repelled. Even the layer of sand armor that was protecting Gaara was no exception. Even though he had lost control of himself, Gaara's consciousness was still intact. His face was contorted in shock. This was the first time Gaara had seen someone who could get rid of his sand so easily. This shocked him, who was filled with murderous intent, and a trace of fear arose in his heart. Looking down at Gaara, Hyojin's expression was calm. He slowly took out a kunai from the ninja tool pouch on his waist. Staring at the kunai that was glowing with a cold light, Gaara's body subconsciously trembled. Without the protection of the sand, he had once again become a helpless 6-year-old boy who lacked love. Without hesitation, Hyojin raised his hand and stabbed the kunai into Gaara's shoulder. Looking at the fresh blood flowing out of the wound, Gaara was stunned. He did not seem to be able to react. Gaara was no stranger to fresh blood, but he had only seen fresh blood flowing out of his own body a few times. Therefore, he was stunned for a moment and could not believe what he was seeing. Sui Jin pulled out the kunai that was pierced into Gaara's shoulder, causing a stream of hot blood to spurt out of the wound. Arg! Only then did the young Gaara realize that he was really injured. Shock, anger, fear, and other intense emotions surged in his heart at the same time. He, who was on the verge of a mental breakdown, completely went berserk. In an instant, Gaara slowly closed his heavy-rimmed eyes and completely lost consciousness. At the same time, the one-tailed crane in Gaara's body took over his body and quickly transformed into a tailed beast. Boom, 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 amidst a series of loud rumbles, the one-tailed crane's enlarged body broke through the roof of the guest house and revealed its true form in the Sand Crypsis village. Chapter 343. The 4 generations of Kazekage, who was leading the crowd to the guest house, saw the figure of Shoha suddenly appear in his field of vision. His heart skipped a beat and he thought to himself, has it already gone out of control to this extent? Chiyo, who was traveling with him, also sighed. With the appearance of Shoha, it was confirmed that Gaara did not pass the test of the 4 generations of Kazekage. Now, the difficult problem in front of the Sand Crypsis was to kill Gaara, capture and seal Shoha again a few years later, and explain to Mai about the death of the messengers. That's right. From Chiyo's point of view, facing the raging Shoha, the 2 Mai messengers living in the guest house would probably not be able to escape death. It was even possible that not even their corpses would be found afterward. The leader of the black operation, Yakura, was worried. Every time Gaara went on a rampage, it would bring a huge loss of people and property to the village, making it even harder for the Sand Crypsis, which was already in a weakened state, to continue. Tonight was probably no exception. Roar! Just as everyone in the Sand Crypsis had their own thoughts, suddenly Shoha, who was not far away, let out a fierce roar. Then, Shoha's huge body began to shrink, and gradually disappeared from the Sand Crypsis's sight. What happened? Everyone in the Sand Crypsis, including the 4 generations of Kazekage, was shocked. However, because there were many buildings in the middle, their vision was blocked, so they were unable to find out what had happened in the guest house for a while. Not long after, the people of the Sand Crypsis, led by the 4 generations of Kazekage, arrived in front of the destroyed guest house. However, the scene in front of them surprised them. They saw Gaara lying quietly on the ground, breathing evenly, as if he was just asleep. On the side, the 2 my messengers were sitting on the ruins of the guest house and chatting with a calm expression. They didn't look like they had just fought with the tailed beast. Yakura, who had dealt with Hyojin and Jishui in the land of demons, recognized Hyojin and Jishui at a glance and exclaimed, "Uchiha Jishui Hyojin! Uchiha Jishui?" The people of the Sand Crypsis were either surprised, or relieved, or curious. In the shinobi world, Uchiha Jishui is obviously more famous than Hyojin, so all the people of the Sand Crypsis ignored Hyojin and focused on Jishui. At this time, they also understood why the messengers of the Mai clan could easily subdue Ichijo. While they were surprised by the power of the Manjikyu Sharingan, they were also deeply afraid of the name Uchiha. Ichijo is a strategic weapon of the Sand Crypsis to deter the shinobi world, but such a weapon was so vulnerable in front of the Manjikyu Sharingan, this naturally made the people of the Sand Crypsis very uneasy. The 4 generations of Kazekage walked over and glanced at Gaara lying on the ground. His eyes stopped for a moment on the wound on Gaara's shoulder, then immediately turned to Hyojin and Jishui and said, "I am ashamed to say this, I didn't expect the village's Jinchuriki to suddenly go out of control. This time I really have to thank the 2 of you." Hyojin deliberately said, "We are very sorry for accidentally injuring your village's Jinchuriki." After provoking Gaara to go berserk, Hyojin immediately ordered Jishui to use the genjutsu of the Manjikyu Sharingan to subdue Ichijo. Seiji's plan was to lower Sand Village's evaluation of Gaara, eventually abandoning Gaara and abandoning their hope for the future. But right now, the Sand Crypsis is needed to deal with the Akatsuki, so Hyojin can't let Ichijo wreak havoc in the Sand Crypsis village, so that the Sand Crypsis can't mobilize their forces to cooperate with Mai's encirclement and suppression of the Akatsuki. After listening to Hyojin's words, the faces of the 4 generations of Kazekage showed an embarrassed expression, and a group of sand ninjas around him glanced sideways. In the eyes of the Sand Crypsis elders, there is no doubt about Gaara's strength. What they are really worried about is whether Gaara can control the Ichijo in his body or not. But now it seems that Gaara is not as strong as they thought, and was easily injured by the 2 envoys of Mai. Although they all know that whether it is Hyojin or Uchiha Jishui, they are the elites of Mai's jutsu bloodline, but the evaluation of Gaara in their hearts is still a lot lower. In order to cover up the embarrassment, the Sand Crypsis quickly took away the unconscious Gaara, and placed Hyojin and Jishui in another guest house. Later, the 4 generations of Kazekage, who had finished dealing with the aftermath, personally came to meet Hyojin and Jishui in the guest house. After asking the 4 generations of Kazekage to dismiss the guards around him, Hyojin handed the letter personally written by the 3 generations of Naruto to the 4 generations of Kazekage. After taking the letter and reading it, the 4 generations of Kazekage were surprised. What, Hanzo is dead? The Land of Rain is located in the center of the shinobi world, and it is precisely because of the existence of demigod Hanzo that other shinobi villages are unwilling to provoke the Rain shinobi easily. If not for this, with the power of the Land of Rain, how could they seal their borders and block the news? Therefore, when they learned that demigod Hanzo is dead, and died in the hands of the Akatsuki's leader, the 4 generations of Kazekage were no less surprised than the 3 generations of Naruto at that time. Hyojin said, "The Akatsuki has currently occupied the Land of Rain, and if we don't take action, the strength of the Akatsuki will further expand." The 4 generations of Kazekage nodded. Because of Sasori, there is no possibility of reconciliation between the Sand Crypsis and the Akatsuki. If the 4 generations of Kazekage want to sit firmly on the Kazekage's throne, then they must eliminate Sasori and take revenge for the 3 generations of Kazekage. Otherwise, not only will he be questioned in the village, but the Sand Crypsis will also be questioned in the shinobi world. After pondering for a while, the 4 generations of Kazekage asked, "Which shinobi villages will participate in this operation?" Hyojin didn't hide anything, "Only Armai, your village, and the Cloud Village." The 4 generations of Kazekage was puzzled. Why exclude Rock and Mist? "We received news that Rock and Mist have been in contact with the Akatsuki organization in private, so they can no longer be trusted." After a pause, Hyojin threw out another piece of heavy news. "At the same time, we also received news that Sasori has placed a spy in your village, so Naruto-sama hopes that your village can strictly keep this a secret and not spread the news of this operation in the village." "What?" The 4 generations of Kazekage's expression turned cold. "Who is it?" Hyojin replied, "It seems to be a ninja named Yura. The specific situation needs to be investigated by your village, but Naruto-sama hopes that your village will cooperate with us to complete the raid on the Akatsuki organization before investigating the internal spy, so as not to alarm the Akatsuki organization prematurely." The 4 generations of Kazekage read the letter written by the 3 generations of Naruto again and said, "Please report to Naruto that the Sand Crypsis will go all out for this raid on the Akatsuki organization. I will meet with Naruto at the time and place agreed in the letter to discuss the specific action plan." Chapter 344. In a dark cell of the Sand Crypsis heavy prison, a small figure squatted in the corner with his hands on his knees and his face buried deep between his legs. This child was none other than the son of 4 generations of Kazekage, Ikainatori Gaara. After experiencing the assassination of his uncle, who had always cared about him, Gaara's heart completely fell into darkness. In the original world, Gaara began to ignore life and reflected the value of his existence by killing. He became a murderous, violent monster that even his elder sister, Brother Kankuro, and Brother Kankuro were extremely afraid of. During the Chunin exam of Mai, he completely appeared as a villain boss, and almost swept away all his peers. Killing seemed to have become the only reason for him to live. And in this world, he was easily injured by Hyojin, and after he went berserk, he was instantly subdued by Jishui. He suffered consecutive setbacks, and he didn't even have the qualifications to become a monster. Therefore, the young Gaara at this moment was completely disheartened. For him, everything doesn't matter, even death is nothing to be afraid of, because he has lost all spiritual sustenance, and also lost the meaning of living. At this moment, the cell door was opened, and 4 generations of Kazekage walked in. Gaara did not look up, still squatting in the corner with his hands on his head. 4 generations of Kazekage looked at Gaara, who was squatting in the corner, almost integrated with the darkness. His face was gloomy, sometimes flashing a decisive killing intent, sometimes showing hesitation. There is no doubt that the identity of the Kazekage and the identity of his father are fighting fiercely in his heart. Gaara's performance tonight undoubtedly disappointed him, and this disappointment is not only because Gaara lost control, but also because Gaara was so easily defeated in the hands of the envoy of Mai. Their own secret weapon was so vulnerable, which made the entire top management of the Sand Crypsis embarrassed. At the same time, a discussion began to appear in the top management of the Sand Crypsis, That is, there is no need to continue to maintain Gaara, who is easily out of control, and whose combat power is not as strong as imagined. As a Kazekage, Luo Sha is very clear that the Sand Crypsis can no longer withstand Gaara's torment. Every time Gaara goes berserk, it brings heavy economic and personnel losses to the Sand Crypsis, and now the only reason to support him to protect Gaara is that Gaara's combat power has been easily destroyed by the envoy of Mai. Let's end this. After secretly making up his mind, Luo Sha's expression gradually became cold, and he asked Gaara, "Is there anything else you want to say to me?" Gaara did not seem to hear his father's words, and did not respond. Luo Sha didn't say anything else and directly left the prison. Not long after he left, a team of Sand-Hidden tribe members came to the prison cell and took away Era, who hadn't said a word. Following the Sand Crypsis Secret Service team, Gaara walked out of the village and arrived at a desert outside the village. On the distant cliff, the 4 generations of Kazekage Luo Sha, the Sand Crypsis Elder Chio, Hai Laozong, as well as the Sand Crypsis Black Ops Captain Yakura and the other higher-ups of the Sand Crypsis were looking at the distant desert. There is the place where my Eren is to be put to death. Initially, even if the Sand Crypsis were to give up on the failed human pillar, the Sand Crypsis wouldn't be in such a hurry to execute Eren. However, since the 4 generations of Kazekage had agreed to the invitation of the 3 generations Naruto and would soon lead the Sand Crypsis elites out of the village, the Sand Crypsis had no choice but to execute Eren in such a hurry. After bringing Eren to the designated location, the Sand Crypsis Black Ops left immediately. The Sand Crypsis's method of executing a failed human pillar was simple. They would set up a large number of detonating talismans at the place of execution and detonate them instantly. The failed human pillar would be engulfed by the explosion in an instant and die without much pain. Standing alone in the desert, Gaara seemed to have realized something, but he did not care. His face was indifferent. Hiss hiss, at that moment, the detonating sound of the detonating talismans was heard all around him. The detonating sound was dense and layered. Just by listening to the sound, an experienced ninja could easily determine that there were hundreds and thousands of detonating talismans being detonated around him. The guardian crane in Gaara's body felt threatened and was eager to occupy Gaara's body and seize control. However, at that moment, Gaara resisted the guardian crane's mental attack. He no longer had any attachment to this cold world. To him, death was not the end but a release. Boom, 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 a violent explosion lit up the night sky in the desert. Then, the shock wave produced by the explosion spread out in all directions, mixed with the yellow sand in the sky. It was like a sandstorm, so dazzling that people could not open their eyes. After a long time, the storm completely subsided and the surroundings returned to silence. The 4 generations of Kazekage ordered the Sand Crypsis Black Ops beside him, "Go and check." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, the Sand Crypsis Black Ops activated the teleportation technique and rushed to the execution ground to check. The center of the ground was scorched. At the core of the explosion, even the sand had been burned, so there was no human remains, let alone clothes. A moment later, a Sand Crypsis Black Ops returned to the rock wall and reported to the Sand Crypsis's higher-ups, including the Wind Shadow, the human pillar has been completely erased by the explosion. After listening to the Black Ops report, some of the Sand Crypsis Black Ops higher-ups had complicated expressions, while some were secretly relieved. The 4 generations of Kazekage looked deeply in the direction of the execution ground and immediately ordered the Black Ops, "Let the investigation team pay attention to the chakra of Ichibi. Once the Ichibi revives, immediately organize an arrest." The tailed beast would not really die. Even if it died along with the human pillar, it would revive after a few years. After dealing with Gaara's matter, the 4 generations of Kazekage felt an unprecedented fatigue. He said to Chio and Hakura, "Get ready. Come with me to see Naruto in a few days. Chiyo and Hakura glanced at each other, and then nodded. The 4 generations of Kazekage had mentioned to them about meeting with Naruto before, so they also knew that this operation needed to be strictly confidential. Therefore, the 2 of them kept silent and did not ask anything in front of everyone. In a small cave far away from the Sand Crypsis village, Hyojin broke a few withered branches and threw them into the fire. The temperature difference between day and night in the desert was huge. If a bonfire was not lit, ordinary people would not be able to survive the night outdoors. Seeing that the flames of the bonfire were much more vigorous, Hyojin clapped his hands and rubbed the sand off his hands. Then, he glanced at Gaara, who was lying unconscious on the ground on the other side of the bonfire. Perhaps it was because of Hyojin's clapping, Gaara shook his head and woke up from his coma. Under the flames of the bonfire, he saw the figure opposite him clearly. He was startled and asked, "Am I not already dead?" Chapter 345. It was I who saved you. Hyojin's expression was indifferent as he said casually. Previously, at the execution ground, Hyojin used the truth-seeking ball to protect Gaara at the last moment and saved him before the explosion. Then, taking advantage of the sandstorm caused by the explosion, Kuroto quietly left the execution ground with Gaara, who was stunned by the shockwave. Gaara didn't thank Kuroto but asked, "Why did you save me?" Hyojin smiled and asked, "Then why do you want to die?" After a long silence, Gaara finally said, "My mother hates me, and my father wants to kill me. Everyone in the village thinks of me as a monster, but I can't become a real monster. I can't find a reason to live anymore." Perhaps because Hyojin easily defeated him, Gaara revealed his true feelings. Hyojin glanced at Gaara but didn't say anything. He knew that I Love Luo's mother, Gorillo, had always loved I Love Luo deeply. This will was so strong that even after Gorillo died, her spirit body still attached to I Love Luo's body, protecting me Love Luo in the form of sand. This kind of situation where a person can stay in the shinobi world for a long time in the form of a spirit can be counted on one's fingers. Apart from Gaara's mother, Gaara, Hyojin can only think of 2 Otsutsuki who can constantly reincarnate and possess bodies, Indra and Azura. From this, it can be seen that Gaara's chakra is very special, and the strength of her spirit is far beyond that of ordinary people. As for Gaara's resentment towards Gaara, it's just a lie made by the 4 generations of Kazekage to test Gaara. It's just that this lie came from the mouth of his uncle, Yakimaru, so Gaara firmly believes it. You are a good ninja, and I am optimistic about your potential, so I saved you. After a pause, Hyojin continued, as long as you are still alive, you will have a lot of time to find the meaning of living. Gaara covered his eyes with his hand. But I can't take this anymore. Hyojin knew what Gaara was referring to when he said torment, so he said, "Don't worry. I'll think of a way to deal with the one-tailed guardian crane." In Hyojin's opinion, the people from the Sand Crypsis were utterly stupid. Instead of thinking about how to improve the sealed tail beast's technique, they were focused on provoking my arrow and testing my arrow's limit. This was undoubtedly playing with fire. I, Ayler, am already considered one of the best among my peers in terms of talent and willpower. If Hyojin was in Gaara's shoes, he would probably not be able to hold on for more than a few months before going crazy from the mental torture of the one-tailed guardian crane. Therefore, even Gaara couldn't bear the mental torture of the one-tailed guardian crane day after day. Even if the Sand Crypsis had 10 or 100 Jinchuriki, the result would be the same. Unless, like the previous Jinchuriki, they found an ascetic with extraordinary willpower to cut off all contact with the outside world to avoid going crazy. In this regard, Mai was much better than the Sand Crypsis. Although they were both Jinchuriki, the interference of the 9 tails on Naruto was extremely limited. In daily life, it was almost impossible for them to affect Naruto. At most, they could interfere with Naruto's chakra condensation and affect his ninjutsu. Naruto was ranked last in the ninja school mainly because of this. Gaara hesitated for a moment and asked, "Can you really help me?" Hyojin walked to Gaara and lifted his clothes. Then, he pressed his palm on Gaara's navel and said in a low voice, "Sealing technique, 4 symbols seal." In an instant, a complicated sealing technique appeared on Gaara's navel. Then, the sealing technique seemed to have a life of its own as it spread from Gaara's navel to the surroundings. Soon, it spread to Gaara's entire body. Gaara looked at the sealing technique that covered his entire body in shock. Then, he was stunned and shouted, "The one-tailed guardian crane's voice is gone." Hyojin frowned. "Has the one-tailed guardian crane been harassing you?" Gaara nodded and said, "Yes, it has been roaring in my body all the time. I can't sleep peacefully." "Is that so?" Hyojin rubbed his chin and pondered. The 4 symbols seal that he cast on Gaara just now completely sealed the one-tailed guardian crane. Although this relieved Gaara's mental pressure, it also cut off the way for Gaara to borrow the one-tailed guardian crane's chakra. In other words, in this sealed state, Gaara has lost the ability that a Jinchuriki should have. Moreover, this 4 symbols seal can only be maintained for a short period of time. After a long time, it will slowly lose its effectiveness. Therefore, Hyojin must find a more reliable way to solve the one-tailed guardian crane in Gaara's body. "It seems that I must borrow the power of the Sharingan." After making up his mind, Hyojin directly entered the Tenseigan chakra mode and flew to his sky fortress with Gaara. A few hours later, Hyojin, who arrived at the sky fortress, placed Gaara in an empty room in the sky fortress, and then used the soul descent technique to use the fire release clone. After controlling the fire release clone to Gaara's room, Gaara was on guard when he saw a stranger. Hyojin said, "Don't worry, my name is Uchiha Flames, I'm Kuroto-sama's subordinate, I'm here to solve the one-tailed guardian crane for you." Gaara looked at the fire release clone suspiciously. "Can you solve the one-tailed guardian crane for me?" Hyojin didn't say much and directly activated the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Looking at the complex scarlet Sharingan in Hyojin's eye sockets, Gaara was taken aback, and immediately showed a look of fear. He didn't forget that the one-tailed guardian crane was instantly subdued by Jishui's Manjikyu Sharingan. Slowly, Suijin arrived in front of Gaara and used the Manjikyu Sharingan to invade Gaara's mind world, just like how Sasuke invaded Naruto's mind world. He also invaded Gaara's mind world. Unlike Naruto's calm mind world, Gaara's mind world is a huge and noisy cave. The one-tailed guardian crane roared and raged in the cave without any restraint, and Gaara's small figure could only hide in the crevice of the rock to avoid the huge one-tailed guardian crane. Sensing the intrusion of an outsider, the one-tailed guardian crane roared and rushed over, not only knocking the stone fragments in the cave but also raising a lot of smoke and dust. Compared to the huge one-tailed guardian crane, Hyojin's fire release clone looks extremely small, but he didn't show the slightest fear and looked at the one-tailed guardian crane indifferently. Noticing the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan in Hyojin's eye sockets, the one-tailed guardian crane suddenly flew into a rage and roared, "Damn Uchiha, I will let you know my power." Chapter 346. With a deafening roar, the one-tailed crane pounced at Hyojin ferociously. Hyojin's expression didn't change. The corner of his mouth rose slightly, and he revealed a disdainful smile. He quickly formed a hand seal and shouted, "Sealing technique, 4 symbols seal." In an instant, a sealing technique that seemed to be made of ink hung down from the ceiling of the cave. These ink-formed sealing spells looked like chains. After they hung down from the top of the cave, they quickly and firmly entangled the huge one-tailed crane. A part of the seal bound Shou-Hi's arms and pulled him up, while the other part wrapped around his torso and trapped him in place. This four symbols seal was what Hyojin had used on Ero before. At this time, Hyojin only used his eye power to bring the four symbols seal into Ero's spiritual world. That was why the four symbols seal, that was already in effect, could instantly subdue the one-tailed crane and trap it in place. After temporarily subduing the one-tailed crane, Hyojin looked around. Ero's spiritual world could be said to be a complete mess. Everywhere he looked, there were broken rock walls and potholes. There was almost no place that was intact. This was completely different from Naruto's spiritual world, where there was an iron gate that locked Kyuubi's mind. The appearance of the spiritual world actually reflected Ero's mental state. From this messy cave, one could see that Ero's mental state was already on the verge of collapse. "I'm going to kill you, kill you!" The one-tailed crane that was trapped by the four symbols seal was still roaring. It struggled violently, trying to break free of the four symbols seal. However, the four symbols seal was one of the sealing techniques that the Whirlpool race had specially developed to deal with tailed beasts. Moreover, the person who cast the seal was Hyojin, who was proficient in the four symbols seal. Therefore, no matter how much the one-tailed crane struggled, it could not break free of the seal's control. Hearing the one-tailed crane's roar, Hyojin frowned and then snapped his fingers. Immediately, another sealing technique hung down from the ceiling of the cave and tightly wrapped around the one-tailed crane's mouth. Its roar that echoed in the cave came to an abrupt stop. Pursing his lips, Hyojin lamented, "Who can stand hearing this guy roar every day?" After entering Ero's spiritual world, Hyojin finally realized how strong Ero's willpower was. If he were in Ero's shoes and had this thing roaring and wreaking havoc in his body every day, he really wasn't sure how long he could last. At the same time, he was extremely glad that the dragon's maze was a lazy bug. When it was in his body, it was basically sleeping in a corner and did not pay attention to him at all. If the dragon's maze had the same temper as the guardian crane, he would have a headache. After a while, Hyojin came to the crevice where Ero was hiding and reached out his hand to Ero, who was squatting inside. "I've subdued it. Come out." Ero in the spiritual world was even more timid than he was in the real world. He looked at Hyojin timidly before taking Hyojin's outstretched hand and walking out of the crevice. When he saw that the one-tailed crane was firmly bound by countless sealing techniques, Ero let out a long sigh of relief. Hyojin asked, "Do you know how to become a qualified Jinchuriki?" Ero shook his head and answered honestly, "I don't know. Communicating with the tailed beast in the body, these may be very important." After a pause, Hyojin slowed down his tone and said, "But the most important thing is to let the tailed beast know that you are not to be trifled with." After saying that, Hyojin activated Susanoo and used the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan's ocular power to call out a golden flame. Ero stared blankly at the golden flame in Hyojin's hand. For some reason, he instinctively felt that this golden flame was terrifying and dangerous. However, this golden flame that was full of danger was so docile in Hyojin's hand. He couldn't help but feel a sense of misplaced absurdity. Hyojin then said, "The tailed beast is far from being as terrifying as you think. In my eyes, they are just large batteries, so don't be afraid of them." But it's a one-tailed crane." Ero was very puzzled. What Hyojin said was completely different from what the Sand Crypsis had taught him since he was a child. In the Sand Crypsis village, the one-tailed crane was the strongest weapon. In the original time and space, the Sand Crypsis had agreed to cooperate with Orochimaru and carry out Orochimaru's My Collapse plan together because they believed that Ero really had the ability to destroy Mai. From this, one could see the one-tailed crane's position in the hearts of the Sand Crypsis. So what if it's a one-tailed crane? With a smile, Hyojin said, "In essence, they are just a ball of chakra. To the weak, they are monsters, but in the eyes of the strong, they are just toys." With a chuckle, Hyojin flicked his finger and the golden flame in his hand shot towards the one-tailed crane. Under the stimulation of the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, The golden flames quickly ignited a large area on Ichikawa's body, and in just a few breaths of time, Ichikawa's body was covered in flames. Boom, 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 the one-tailed crane, which was burned by the golden flame, struggled frantically. For a moment, the whole cave shook violently. It seemed that even the four symbols seal could not control it. Looking at the frantically struggling Shizuki, Gaara hid behind Suijin with a look of fear on his face. Hyojin turned around and squatted down. He put his hands on Eiro's shoulders and asked, "It's obviously tied up and struggling in pain. Why are you afraid?" Hyojin did this to build a strong mentality for Eiro against the one-tailed crane, so he pushed Eiro in front of him as he spoke. No matter how hard the one-tailed crane struggled, it could not break free. It could only endure the burning of the golden flame. For the first time, Eiro showed a shocked expression. "Did you see that? A tailed beast can also be subdued and punished," Hyojin said calmly behind Eiro. Eiro looked at Hyojin expectantly and asked eagerly, Can I do this in the future?" Hyojin said, "Of course. Otherwise, why would Lord Mirror save you? You are someone Lord Mirror values. Don't let him down." Eiro was a little uneasy. "Does Lord Mirror really recognize my ability?" Hyojin glanced at Eiro and nodded with a smile. Eiro turned around and looked at the one-tailed crane, which was wailing and struggling in the golden flame. The fear and uneasiness in his eyes gradually disappeared, replaced by determination. He muttered to himself, "I won't let Lord Mirror down. I will become strong." At this moment, Eiro seemed to have found a reason to live again. His eyes shone with anticipation for the future. Chapter 347. Letting Gaara establish a psychological advantage over Shoha is only the first step. If he wants to completely conquer Shoha, Gaara still has a long way to go, and this is obviously not something that Hyojin can do for him. However, the difference in strength between the young Aielo and the one-tailed guardian crane was simply too great. Therefore, Kuroto must strive for a stable growth period for Eira, otherwise, the psychological advantage that Eira has just established will be destroyed again by the Shukuko-tailed crane. Having made up his mind, Suijin didn't immediately stop the roasting of Ichikawa. After being burned by the golden flame for a long time, Shoha's struggle gradually weakened. Unlike the overbearing black flame of Amaterasu, Hyojin's golden flame is much inferior in power, but the golden flame also has its advantage, that is, it can burn chakra and use chakra as nourishment to accelerate the burning. This is just right to restrain the tailed beast because the tailed beast itself is an aggregation of a huge amount of chakra. Once Hyojin uses the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan's ocular power to stimulate the golden flame, he does not need to continue to use ocular power because Shoha's own chakra will become the fuel for the golden flame. This is why Hyojin was able to use the golden flame to defeat Morio's human pillar Shino in the village last time. Seeing that it's about time, Hyojin waved his hand and removed the sealing technique that bound Shoha's mouth. After the mouth was unsealed, Shoha was already very weak, but it still roared incessantly. "Damn Uchiha, I will definitely not let you go," Hyojin said coldly. "It seems that you have not learned your lesson enough." Too lazy to bind Shoha's mouth again, Hyojin directly used the ocular power to intensify the power of the golden flame. In an instant, Shoha's wail resounded throughout the cave. Hyojin smiled at Gaara next to him and said, "Is it pleasant to the ear?" Gaara nodded a little nervously, but there was more excitement in his eyes. Hyojin deliberately said loudly, "You have to get used to this kind of wailing in the future, it will always accompany you as you grow up." Gaara was a little surprised and asked, "Are you going to punish it like this forever?" Shoha stopped wailing at this moment and turned his attention to Hyojin, waiting for his answer, or in other words, waiting for his sentence. Seeing Shoha looking at him resentfully, Hyojin smiled and explained to Gaara, "My unique golden flame is not an ordinary flame. It can absorb the chakra of the person being burned to maintain its own burning. And the tailed beast is not only an aggregation of chakra, but it can also endlessly recover chakra. So as long as I want, its golden flame can continue burning. It was like igniting a piece of charcoal that would never burn out. As long as there was no external interference, the burning would continue forever. Of course, Suijin's words are also an exaggeration. After all, even if the golden flame can burn for a long time, the four symbols seal that binds Shoukage won't be able to hold for long. Once the four symbols seal was gone, Hyojin believed that Shoha would definitely have a way to extinguish the golden flame on its body. The one-tailed guardian crane panicked and shouted, "Damn it, stop the flames!" Hyojin's threat was soon effective. Shoha was not as unyielding as Gaara had imagined when facing an expert who could easily subdue him. This is not the attitude to ask for help. Hyojin crossed his arms in front of his chest and said casually. Kuroto had never tasted the feeling of having his whole body scorched by flames before, but he was sure that it was not a good feeling. Therefore, he was confident that Shoha would succumb. The only problem was how long it would take. As expected, Shoha said unwillingly, "Fine, Uchiha, you win. Stop the damn flames." Shoha was furious. "What? You want me to beg this kid? He's just a runny bug. He has no right to negotiate with me." Hyojin said lightly. Shoha was furious. "What? You want me to beg this kid? He's just a runny bug. He has no right to negotiate with me." Shoha could reluctantly accept submitting to Uchiha, who had the bloodline of the Samsara immortal. That was because all tailed beasts, including the strongest one, 9 tails, knew how powerful these scarlet eyes were. However, it would be difficult for it to submit to Gaara, who was only 6 years old. Kuroto said indifferently, "You don't have the right to negotiate with me. Either you give in or you silently endure this endless punishment. Kill this kid, and you will be my Jinchuriki, and you will have all my chakra." Isatsuki tried to persuade Kuroto. Gaara looked at Hyojin worriedly. However, Hyojin said disdainfully, "I'm not interested in you." Shoha was shocked and furious. "You, make your choice. I don't have time to waste with you." After a pause, Hyojin said slowly, "I don't know when I'll come again. Therefore, I hope you can make a wise choice." The guardian crane fell into a dilemma. Even as a tailed beast, it could not endure the scorching heat of the golden flames. However, it was extremely unwilling to submit to a 6-year-old child, given its violent nature. At that moment, Gaara stepped forward and said, "Shoha, you can choose not to submit to me now. However, I will prove to you that I'm not a weakling in the future. One day, you will willingly acknowledge me." After saying that, Gaara begged Hyojin, "Please let it go." Hyojin was a little surprised by Gaara's action. He had planned to force Shoha to submit and buy some time for Gaara to improve his strength. He did not expect that Gaara would take the initiative to stand up and plead for Shoha, who had been torturing him day and night. Gaara thought to himself, as expected of the 5th Kazekage, who will stabilize the sand crypsis in the future. Since you're pleading for it, I'll let it go this time. After a pause, Hyojin continued, "If it still doesn't behave, you can tell me at any time. I will let it understand that there are many things more terrible than death in the shinobi world." After saying that, Hyojin withdrew the golden flames on Shoha's body and left Gaara's spiritual world. After coming back to his senses, Gaara hurriedly bowed deeply to Hyojin and said, "Thank you for everything you've done for me." Hyojin waved his hand and said, "This is Kuroto-sama's order. If you want to thank someone, thank Kuroto-sama." After leaving Gaara's room, Hyojin thought to himself, "Since you've trained Gaara, why don't you find a few more children with potential and train them together?" In the shinobi world, the good seedlings with potential were either in the major ninja villages or in Orochi Maru's pocket. After thinking for a long time, Hyojin could only think of Xiang Lin, who had the Uzumaki bloodline. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.